Ottawa.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, April 16th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now, some light rain, 3 degrees in Ottawa and Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Canadian Medical Association has issued an urgent call for measures to address the state of crisis unfolding in several provinces with COVID-19. This would include marshalling national resources where needed, applying restrictive public health measures, and prioritizing national collaboration to save the most lives. The CMA is calling for province-to-province collaboration, means sharing healthcare resources and other things as well. The association also wants the federal government to consider a reprioritization of its vaccine distribution, focusing on areas of urgent need rather than a per capita approach. The CMA is urging all political leaders to come together as a nation and address this crisis. Now, new modeling numbers show COVID cases in Ontario could more than triple in just over 1 month from now, from under about 5,000 cases a day in Ontario to 18,000 by the end of May. The province will be announcing new measures at 2:30 this afternoon aimed at combating these dire health numbers.
The new restrictions come as the province's Associate Medical Officer of Health warns the situation in Ontario is dire, worse than any other point in the pandemic. Dr. Barbara Yaffe said yesterday additional recommendations have been made to Cabinet, and provincial officials say everything is on the table, although details about what specific measures are being considered have not been released. Ontario's Science Advisory Co-Chair is also expected to provide an updated pandemic modelling briefing today. Laurie Paris, The Canadian Press, Toronto.
City News Time, 9:01, and now the forecast with weather specialist Denise Andriacci.
We've got light rain this morning through Smiths Falls, and then we're cloudy with showers this afternoon. The Ottawa region tapping into that cooler air mass once again with a bit of active weather, but the weekend looks good. We'll have sun and cloud both days and temperatures near or above seasonal. Your daytime high today for Smiths Falls, only 8 degrees.
And once again, with some light rain, it's 3 degrees in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls. A ninth OC Transpo bus driver has tested positive for COVID-19, the ninth since just last Thursday. The employee worked last Wednesday through Sunday on several different routes, including 3 school routes, St. Patrick's and Bell High among them. The last day of work was April 12th. Since then, the bus operator has been self-isolating at home. Now, in this case, Ottawa Public Health says the key dates for possible infection are April 7th through the 12th. Now, there is a full list of the routes on our website. Just go to ottawa.citynews.ca. City News Time at 9:03. Environment Minister Jonathan Wilkinson is calling on opposition leaders to allow debate to wrap on a significant carbon emissions bill. Bill C-12 would require the federal government to set legally binding targets for reducing carbon emissions over the next 30 years. All opposition parties profess to support the bill in principle, but Wilkinson says procedural maneuvers have repeatedly delayed it. Google Earth has a new video. It features putting a spotlight on the impact of climate change.
The tool was unveiled Thursday, billed as the biggest update to Google Earth in 5 years. The video feature draws upon nearly 4 decades of satellite imagery to vividly illustrate how climate change has affected glaciers, beaches, forests, and other places around the world. Google says they worked in concert with several government agencies, including NASA and its European counterpart, to put the project together. One climate scientist previewed the video and believes this will get people to understand the scope of climate change and could change many people's minds about the scale of the impact of humans on the environment. Todd Ant, ABC News.
And I'm Andrew Boyle. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Separating headlines
from hearsay.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Friday. We made it. Ooh, busy day in the news game. Thanks for making us part of your day. The gang's all here. Lowell Green will be along in just a few minutes from now. There was a bear up to no good at the Coupe de Carpe, from what I'm told. Adventures at the Coupe de Carpe. But Lowell always has a hot take on the news of the day. He'll share it. Pierre, Bourque, Newswatch. We'll go over another event-filled week in news. Steve Warne from the Sens Nation podcast will join us. We'll talk some Sens hockey. Trade deadline in the rearview mirror. Sens and Habs in action tomorrow. We have the Queen's Park Week in Review with our MPPs. Big news day, big news day, big news day for Doug Ford. You will want to be listening to City News, well, all day. I mean, you should listen all day, but especially around 2:30 this afternoon. That's when Premier Ford is expected to announce new measures to try and get a handle on the COVID-19 situation. This will be, if you're keeping score at home, this will be the third week in a row the Premier Ford will have stood in front of a microphone to announce new restrictions. On the 1st of April, we had the province-wide hitting of the emergency brake. Slam on the emergency brake. Slammed on, okay? Then, 1 week later, having decided that the emergency brake was not getting the job done, we had the declaration once more of the state of emergency and the imposition of a new and another stay-at-home order. Stay at home, stay at home. And now, here we are. It is what is it today? The 16th day of April. And, well, at this point, who knows what the Premier has in mind, really. And what's he going to close today? And besides, whatever he announces today, if it doesn't do the trick, I suppose there's always next Friday. Let's try this. Nope, that didn't work. Hey, let's try this. Nope, doesn't seem to have done much either. Seems things are actually getting worse. Maybe we should try this or that or the other thing. 2:30. 2:30, we will find out what this, that, or the other thing actually is, for this week. All tentative and subject to change by next week. That's not the only big news story in the mix, not by a long shot. There's all the reaction, not much of it is glowing, by the way, to the carbon tax, brought to you by Aaron O'Toole. You remember him, right? The leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, in air quotes, the Conservative Party of Canada. Club Z for carbon tonnage. Widely panned, ridiculed this morning, rightly so, in my opinion, widely panned by some on the left and some on the right. $20 a ton, going up to $50 a ton, but don't worry, it's not really a tax. I love that. It's not really a tax. That's a liberal trick. It's not really a tax, it's a price. And it's not a carbon tax, it's a price on carbon. Until it's not a price on carbon, it's actually a price on pollution. And this Conservative plan, it's not really a tax, because whatever you pay, you're going to get back. And it's going to go into your green savings account. Hey, everybody, a round of twisty light bulbs on me. They just topped up my green savings account. Here's one of the things with this Conservative carbon tax that annoys me, okay? It's that Aaron O'Toole didn't tell the truth. He said one thing when he was running for the leadership of the party. Now he's the leader. He's doing something else entirely. I mean, this is what he used to say about a carbon tax. Roll tape.
Yes or no? Will you scrap the carbon tax?
Yes. A tax on the poorest, a tax on small business, not a smart plan. Yes, we will scrap Mr. Trudeau's carbon tax. Mr. Trudeau's carbon tax is unfair.
The carbon tax is bad for a number of reasons.
Let me be clear. Canada's Conservatives will repeal Mr. Trudeau's carbon tax.
But now he's the leader, and now you're going to pay a carbon tax. If the Liberals are in power, you'll pay a carbon tax, and if the Conservatives are in power, you're going to pay a carbon tax. Under the Conservative plan, this is the kicker. Someone, somewhere along the way, will have to figure out just how much of a carbon tax credit goes into your green savings account every time you use something somewhere along the line that involves hydrocarbons. And we're led to believe, ladies and gentlemen, we are TGIF. We are led to believe that a smart group of conservatives, in fact, the brain trust of the party, they all sat in a room together and they actually came up with this goofy scheme. I want you to think about this. Let's say Aaron O'Toole, candidate Aaron O'Toole, right from the get-go of that conservative leadership race, comes before my friends on the right side of things. The people who donate to the Conservative Party of Canada, or members of the Conservative Party of Canada, volunteer on campaigns for the Conservative Party of Canada, put the signs on their lawns, vote for your candidate, Conservative Party of Canada. Let's say Aaron O'Toole comes to you during the leadership race and says, I, too, am in favor of a carbon tax. Honestly, what do you think his chances are of winning that leadership race? What do you think his chances are? I can tell you what they would have been. Net zero. And if the party faithful, the diehards, can't trust the party's leader to keep his word, why should Canadians? And then there are the Liberals. Oh, don't get me started about the Liberals. The Trudeau Liberals that have mastered the high art of political hypocrisy. There they are. They're all over Twitter. They're all over social media, and they're outraged, and they're upset, and they're demanding investigations because Willie from the Pontiac couldn't keep his clothes on during a virtual session of the House of Commons. And somebody leaked a picture. The trials and tribulations of the naked MP. And they're demanding, can you imagine this? They're demanding an investigation. These Liberals, we must get to the bottom of this. This terrible thing that has happened to this middle-aged white man of privilege in a position of influence, power, and authority. They actually have the audacity, these Liberals, to call for an investigation into one Liberal MP's Zoom call snafu just days after they shut down an investigation into multiple allegations of sexual misconduct at the highest ranks of the Canadian Armed Forces. They shut that investigation down. Didn't want to hear one more word about it. So everyone in Liberal land prior to the election is off the hook. The defense minister, the prime minister, all of them. Oh, but they all rushed to the defense of Willie from the Pontiac. What do you think we should do, ladies and gentlemen? Royal Commission? Royal Commission? Public inquiry? For shame. For shame. For shame. Do they know no shame? Oh, that's rhetorical. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
The food cupboard started about 25 years ago. Again, it was a very small operation in the basement of a church. And we have been expanding to the point where we needed to have a new facility. So in discussion with the city of Ottawa and Jan Harder, the local representative here, we came to this location, which is about 2,000 square feet, located in the Walter Baker Center. We've been here for about 2 years, and it is much better. It gives us a much broader opportunity to serve our clients better. It's a fairly affluent community in Barrhaven, so you wouldn't think that people would really need to have a food bank or a food cupboard. But people sometimes have a temporary loss of their job, maybe new immigrants or refugees to the community. Maybe there's been an injury in the family or something like a pandemic that causes people to run short of food during their monthly requirements. So we offer any clients who come and live in our catchment area the opportunity to pick up an order of food every 3 or 4 weeks. The need varies from time to time. We have expanded our offering to include quite a few perishables, eggs, milk, cheese, yogurt, vegetables, fruit. But people, I think, know that we need cans of beans and stuff as well too. One thing that we're consistently short of sometimes is personal hygiene products. You go to the grocery store, you buy your toothpaste and you buy your deodorant and shampoo there. People don't automatically think that to donate those kinds of things to a food cupboard. So we end up buying quite a few of those things from time to time. The pandemic has affected us like it has everybody. Initially, we had to stop the grocery store food donations so that we didn't have any risk of contamination and to have a significant number of volunteer work to be done in our facility. We have a storefront, so it's like a mini grocery store where you take a cart and you go around and pick out the things that you want. That doesn't work during the pandemic to maintain social distancing and so on. So what we have now is our clients can come in one at a time, they make an appointment, they stand behind a line, and they direct our volunteer to, I'd like Kellogg's cornflakes rather than Harvest Crunch, to pick the food that they would like off the shelves according to the allocation, depending on the size of their family. And then they take it out, load it into their vehicle or whatever, bring back the cart, we disinfect everything, and prepare for the next client. We are very blessed here in Barrhaven. We're a totally volunteer organization. So if you give a dollar to us, it goes to purchasing food or to provide some service to our clients.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News. 101.1 FM.
and 1310 AM.
Good morning, Lowell. Great.
Good morning, Rob. Good morning. You were mentioning the fact that we had a bear visit overnight.
Yeah.
We thought that we were free of bears here. We got every other type of wildlife. We've got deer and wild turkeys and raccoons. I haven't seen a skunk yet. I don't know what's happened to skunks. I mean, ordinarily, it's not really spring until you smell a skunk, and I haven't smelled a skunk yet. But at any rate, a couple of years ago, they captured a little bear not far from here, and they shipped him off to the wilds of Algonquin. So we, I guess, assumed that we were safe here, so we began to leave the bird feeders out at night.
Okay.
Prior to that, we had taken them in.
Yeah.
Well, last night, I guess, I don't know if it's the same bear that's returned or it's a new bear or whatever it is, but one hell of a big bear because he bent over. We got a big steel bar. It's about a half-inch steel bar. Bent her right in half and tore the bird feeder down and just ripped it all to you-know-what. So I guess we've got a bear on the loose around here. Great fun. All fun.
Right. Okay.
So the only amount of fun, actually, that we've got these days. Rob, as I listen to you going through the list of all the plagues that are now surrounding us.
Yeah.
And it really begs the question. I mean, where does the average guy, just the average Joe that just wants to make a living and raise a family, where does he turn now? The Liberals have betrayed us terribly. Now we've got our good friend Aaron O'Toole lying to us, imposing a carbon tax. The only guy, it seems to me, that's not lying is the guy that's taking most of the flack, and that's Doug Ford. I mean, he's caught between a rock and a hard place, for goodness sake. He's got to make more restrictions. Everybody's mad at him, the lockdowns. But the reason that we've got lockdowns and all of the new restrictions is because he can't get any vaccines. I mean, it's astonishing. And for some reason, a lot of people don't seem to understand what's really happening.
Okay. What's really happening, according to Lowell Green? What's really happening?
Well, yeah, but I mean, we know what's happening. This past week, 20,000 booked appointments for vaccines had to be canceled in Toronto and area. Why? Because there were no vaccines. Why were there no vaccines? Because Trudeau promised that there would be 880,000 vaccines coming in this past Monday. They did not arrive. They've only arrived apparently in the last day. Now we're told that there were going to be more vaccines coming in on this following Monday. Now we find out that they may not be here until May. So I guess the one mistake, I suppose, that Ford made was he went ahead and booked reservations for vaccines before the vaccines arrived. Well, I guess by now we should know that you can't trust Trudeau to tell you the truth about vaccines. But at any rate, I mean, this is the problem. We don't have enough vaccines.
Yeah, and then while all of that is going on, you have liberals, chirping on Twitter and using social media, doses and freezers. Why are there so many doses and freezers?
Well, see, here's the problem, and we went through this before.
Yeah.
If you allow appointments to be made before the vaccines arrive, then as soon as the vaccines arrive, you've got appointments already lined up. But if you wait until the vaccines arrive, then very clearly there's going to be a day or two delay, okay? And so, as I say, Ford took the chance and said, listen, they promised there'd be these 800 and some odd on Monday. I'm going to allow vaccine appointments to be made. Well, what happened? That stuff didn't arrive. It's not Ford's fault. He was told they were going to be here. You should be able to allow on the word of the Prime Minister, for God's sake. They weren't here, so now, apparently, I guess there have been no new vaccines in the past few days, and apparently now we may not get any more, or certainly a sizable amount, until sometime in May. Meantime, we've got other countries. I mean, here is something that also seems to be escaping a lot of people. Let me use myself as an example.
Okay.
I'm 84 years old. I have other health problems. Okay. I got my first shot on March 24th. I should be getting my second shot next week. If we followed science, if we followed the recommendations of the people who make the vaccines, I and thousands of others, tens of thousands of others, should be getting our vaccines next week, the week after that. In other words, 21, 20, 28 days. This is what science says. This is what other countries are doing. This is the way to guarantee full immunity, or near full immunity. Get the second dose. You're not fully vaccinated until you've got the second dose. Do you know the percentage of people in this country who have had both shots so far?
I have it right in front of me here. According to the Bloomberg Vaccine Tracker, it's 2.2% of Canadians.
Actually, it's I guess, yeah. My figure says 2.3%.
Well, yeah, okay.
But now let's take the United States. In the United States, by the way, they now have vaccinated almost 200 million people in the United States.
Yep.
Over 30%.
With at least one dose. Yeah.
At least one dose. But over 30% of the people in the United States now have two doses. They aren't delaying the doses there. They are giving that second dose when they are supposed to. So more than 30% of people in the United States are fully vaccinated. So guess what? As a consequence, their infection rate is drastically falling every single day. Today, in fact, starting yesterday, and I think I'm sure most of your listeners are aware of this, Canada's infection rate surpassed the infection rate of the United States of America. So now we are having more infections on a per capita basis, more infections than they are in the United States, more infections than almost any other Western nation. In the UK, for example, they're almost scot-free. They pretty well opened their country up, or a good chunk of it, this past Monday. Guess what? Back in January, the rate of infections in the UK was about 650 cases per million population, okay, in January. You know what it was yesterday? Dropped to 40. From 650 per million to about 40 in the UK. Why? Because over 50% of the entire population has now been vaccinated fully, 2 shots. That's why. So,
well, you can see it. You can see it in the number of people currently dying every day from COVID-19. Now, I check out 2 sources on this because they're both tracking the same time frame. The New York Times on its front page every morning, website newyorktimes.com, nytimes.com, tracks new cases and new deaths, 14-day change. Cases are up in the United States, up slightly, up 8% in 14 days. Again, according to the New York Times.
Yep.
The number of people dying, the new deaths, down 16%. Okay, that's the American situation over the last 14 days.
Yes.
Global News is tracking the same thing over the same time frame, 14 days. In Canada, the number of cases up 85%.
Yes.
85% versus 8% in the United States. And the number of daily deaths up 59% in the last 14 days. It is down 16% in the United States. Very stark difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of vaccines.
Precisely. The fact of the matter is that in order to vaccinate everybody and to achieve herd immunity, we need about 60 million doses. 38 million people. We need about 60 million doses so that everybody gets 2 doses, right? So far, we have received this. Don't forget, we're into the 5th month now. The 5th month. So far, we have received only about 12 million doses. That is only 20% of the 60 that we need. So I mean, this is madness. You're right. It's causing deaths. It's causing more lockdowns. And poor old Doug Ford, who's stuck there, he's not the guy responsible for getting vaccines into this country. That responsibility is the responsibility solely of the Prime Minister of this country, a man called Justin Trudeau, who, by the way, is so damn stupid. He stood in the House yesterday or the day before and claimed that while, yes, it's true that the UK are doing pretty well vaccinating, but they're having a terrible problem with third wave. It's a giant lie. Right now, the UK has the lowest infection rate in all of Europe. It has a far lower infection rate than Canada, a far lower rate than the United States.
And the UK media, in the UK media was not impressed with that shot.
No, not at all. Our Prime Minister stands in the House and claims that the UK is suffering a terrible third wave. And outright, either one of things. Either he knew the truth and told a lie, or he's so damn stupid that he doesn't know how to read some headlines.
Well, maybe, who knows? What's going on with the Riverside Hospital?
Well, because, as you know, they're trying to increase the number of beds in the Ottawa Hospital and the Queensway Carleton. So they are closing the Riverside Hospital except for dialysis, and I think women's something, I'm not sure, but essentially the Riverside Hospital is being closed this coming Tuesday, so that the employees, the workers there, doctors, nurses, etc., then can come and help out in other hospitals. This is the problem. It's all very well to talk about increasing the number of beds. I mean, you build a tent and you put a bunch of beds there, but who the hell's going to staff them? That's the problem. Right now, I got a big story this morning. Doug Ford is asking the federal government for 600 workers, 600 people.
Yeah, well, where are you going to find them? It's not like we have a factory somewhere. They don't come off a line in Oshawa somewhere.
But the thing that people seem to forget is there is one reason for that, primary reason, and that is we don't have enough vaccines. We were promised time and time again that we had ordered more vaccines per capita than any other nation, et cetera, et cetera. Well, where the hell are those vaccines? Other countries are leapfrogging ahead of us. I mean, we're still about 54th or whatever it is, and then it's outrageous. But somehow or other, it's poor old Doug Ford that's going to catch it in the rear because he's got to make the announcement. What are we going to do? I mean, if we don't clamp down more, who knows whether it's going to work? But something we just simply can't allow. They're talking a possibility of about 18,000 new infections in Ontario within the next month or something.
Every day. Yeah.
So we've got to do something. But, I mean, this could all or mostly be alleviated, as it has been in the UK and is happening in the United States, already happened in Israel and many other countries, and that is vaccinate enough people, get herd immunity, or certainly reduce the number of people with, and you'll beat the thing. But
so who? All right, we got to wrap things up. Who has the bear spray in your house? Somebody have bear spray?
There's one other thing that really upsets me.
We're out of time. We're way over time.
Why are we spending $200 million on a new library? Spend that money on long-term care instead. This is ridiculous.
Okay. Talk next week. Thanks, Lowell. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Lowell Green, the news coming up, and then Pierre Bourque of Bourque Newswatch. This is City News.
1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, April 16th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now, light rain, 4 degrees in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls. And here's what's making news at this hour. The Canadian Medical Association says this COVID crisis needs a new battle line. It's calling on all levels of government to make a national collaboration the main focus of the fight against COVID-19. It feels vaccines to hot zones instead of per capita approach would be much better. That's one example they gave. Modeling numbers have been so far bang on predicting the future. In just a matter of 6 weeks, Ontario is predicting 18,000 cases per day. Provincial government is set to announce these modeling numbers this morning. This afternoon, scheduled for 2:30, Premier Doug Ford expected to announce more measures trying to curtail this growing problem. We have asked Ottawa Public Health for more information on some troubling stats out this morning. One particular postal code in the city has the highest COVID case rate of any jurisdiction in the province. The population apparently very small in this postal code area. We've asked Public Health if there is a specific event that might have sparked a particular increase. The postal code is an area of western downtown toward City Hall. City News Time, 9:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Bourque is back. Back in Bourque. Pierre Bourque from Bourque Newswatch. Good morning.
Rob, good morning. Notwithstanding Lowell having the neighborhood bear back on his premises, I don't know why he's got his doom and gloom face on. I'm taking a page from the Justin Trudeau Don't Worry, Be Happy book. I mean, he's being lauded by recipients of government largesse. I mean, I think Air Canada is going to name a plane after him for what what Trudeau and his government has done for Air Canada. Look at he's in the polls, doing well, just coming off of that convention.
He's at that magical 40%, Pierre. 40% is the magic number, right? Majority government. So
he is the magic man compared to the invisible man, which is Mr. Flip Flop himself, Aaron O'Toole. I mean, that guy is going nowhere. So there's no real opposition for the governing Liberals. There's nobody to hold their feet to the fire, and the government feels so comfortable that they could decide that, hey, you know what we really need here is a royal commission to figure out who leaked this photo of the naked Liberal MP.
Yeah, isn't that something? Okay, but let's focus on what the big news story of the day is going to be, and that's what you think Doug Ford is going to say at 2:30. Now, there's what you think he might say, and then there's what you think he should say. Maybe break down your thinking along those lines for us, Pierre, this morning.
Well, you and I think in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've talked about whether or not the government has been making the right decisions. Certainly, if you look just at the numbers, and a moment ago you just went through the numbers. The numbers are not good. They're not good nationally. They're certainly not good in Ontario, and they're terrible in Toronto. And they're so bad in Toronto that the overflow of sick people is going to infect us here in Ottawa in terms of usage of local facilities that might be needed for local people. I mean, what do you do for people in Ottawa once the rise in need occurs? Do we ship them off to Sudbury? Do we ship them off to Timmins? And, you know, who the heck knows? But that is of concern. So I've gotten to the point, I think, and I think a lot of people, number one, are tuned out as far as what the Daily Doug is all about. But more than that, I'm less concerned in what he's saying rather than what he's being told and he's not acting on.
Right.
More and more, I'm thinking that he's making the wrong decisions. Whatever's pushing him to make whatever decisions he's made, the proof is in the pudding. The decisions have been wrong.
I mean, do you think we should have a curfew? In Quebec, they have a curfew. You're not allowed out of the house at 8 o'clock, right?
I'd love to know.
I mean, Quebec, I mean, for all intents and and this is not like, oh, Rob's in favor of curfews and lockdowns and shutdowns and he wants to wreck the economy. No. But I mean, we're at the most serious point of this crisis, of this health crisis. I think we can all agree on it. It's never been so bad. I mean, it's all around us. The news is all around us. It's as plain as the nose on your face. You can see it with your own two eyes. All this stuff. What's going on with the hospitals? In Quebec, the case numbers are lower. They're lower. And the only major difference between what's going on in Quebec and what's going on in Ontario is the curfew. That's the only major public policy difference. Almost everything else is the same when it comes to restrictions and mask mandates in schools and everything else. So
I think you can add to that they've had a better vaccine rollout in that province than they've had here. But also remember, a year ago, that Quebec was the basket case when it came to infections, and granted at much, much lower levels than we're seeing a year later here. But even to this day, you're looking today, the last few weeks, the numbers in Quebec are a lot less than the numbers in Ontario on a per-day basis. We've also hit a point now where our daily numbers are higher than the highest point in the second wave, which was just a couple of months ago.
Okay. So I'm looking, bear with me here, okay? I have the website in front of me for Pearson Airport in Toronto, because I know this is a top story for you at Bourque.com this morning, the arrivals into the airport. So I'm just looking through the international flights that are landing today at the international gates of Pearson Airport. View 4, St. Lucia. Let me run these down for you. New Delhi, Detroit, New Delhi, India, right? It's terrible in India right now, right?
Rob, India, 200,000 a day they announced yesterday.
Yeah.
New infections.
Right. Detroit, Charlotte, those are, there's multiple flights a day from Detroit, Charlotte. Frankfurt, Germany, Dallas, Fort Worth, Newark, Amsterdam, Lahore, Pakistan, a couple of flights coming in from Chicago, a place called Guangzhou, China, Shanghai, Abu Dhabi, Bogota, Colombia, Dubai, Seoul, South Korea, Lima, Peru, Paris, another one from Frankfurt. There's a flight from London, another one from Dallas, Istanbul, Newark, Athens, Greece, another one from London, Chicago, Shanghai, Atlanta, Georgia, a couple there, and Miami. I mean, it's not nearly as busy at Pearson Airport. I mean, that's the day's international flights, and that would probably be on any given day. That would probably be of the flights that would land in an hour at Pearson. I get it; it's not nearly as busy as it used to be, but we still have all of these flights coming into Pearson. And your story today is this hotel quarantine really working at the airport? You know, this idea that you have to quarantine for 3 days at the hotel. I mean, it sounds like people are just saying, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not even going to bother going.
Yeah, so, here we are in Ottawa. It's a high-tech capital of the country. A lot of high-tech high flyers who have flown around the world. They will know, if they're listening to us right now, they will know that Amsterdam, Paris, Frankfurt, London, Dubai, those are not just cities that are bringing in their respective citizens into Canada. Those are major international way stations for flights coming from all over the world, coming into Heathrow from all over to pick up a flight to Canada, for instance. Same for Amsterdam. The Netherlands is a small country, but Schiphol Airport is an incredibly busy airport for international flights coming in and then funneling people into Canada and other points. So, we have this situation where every single politician and public health expert is bemoaning the fact that these new variants are just taking off and they're driving everybody crazy. And a lot of people are getting sick because the variants move faster and they're deadlier. But where did they come from? I said last week, did they swim over? Did they come over on a strong wind?
Plus, it's this whole thing. Today,
Rob, let me finish my thought.
Sure. Yeah, sorry.
I just want to make this point here.
Yeah.
Is that if we're worried about variants that came from elsewhere, why do we still have the airports open?
At all.
Where was the brainwave to say, you know what, maybe we need to cut back on our airports here because whatever we're doing to screen inbound people hasn't worked if we've got variants going all over the place.
Plus, it's this whole idea that today Doug Ford, Premier Ford, there he is, poor fella, stuck in the middle again. He might have to announce a ban on all outdoor gatherings, right? Nobody's allowed to even go to the playground with their kids. Go to the park. We had a big debate in the city this week about should we have an 8 p.m. curfew. Maybe by the end of the day, the parks will be closed. Who knows? And you won't be allowed to gather with anybody. You won't be allowed to go across the street to see grandma, for crying out loud. Yet this is what goes on at the airport. It's kind of ridiculous that this is going on. Really?
Yeah, and you've got people who refuse to be quarantined in hotels. I was talking to somebody yesterday who is peripherally involved in one of those quarantine hotels in Ottawa, and said they're jam-packed, absolutely jam-packed. And so, a lot of people are abiding by that. But then you've got others, apparently, well, you just get a fine. That's it, home, you get a fine. And that's it. But what are you doing on your way home if you've been away for a while? You're stopping at the grocery store.
Sure.
Maybe you're stopping to pick up your dry cleaning. Who the heck knows what you're doing? But nobody's paying attention.
I mean, I guess Americans coming here, I'm not really all that worried about it. At least if they're American, the chances are pretty good they've had at least one shot, if not two. But nevertheless, let's move on. O'Toole does the carbon tax. What do you think about that?
Yeah, like I said, he's the invisible man. He walks the beach, leaves no footprints. I just don't understand what's happening. He's just not connecting. I watched him in question period this week. There's no fire in the belly. There's no shortage of reasons to have fire in the belly. You can imagine if that was Lucien Bouchard, if it was Jean Chrétien in opposition, barking out the questions. Pierre Poilievre, my God, he's 10 times better than Aaron O'Toole when it comes to asking questions. I don't get it. There's no fire in the belly, and if you need anything from your leader of the official opposition in this era, I think it's at least that fire in the belly, that passion, that desire to follow through on what's of palpable interest to the population at large. And right now, that's the amount of people getting sick.
Okay. How are you going to spend? Not that this is ever going to come to pass, because the Conservatives would actually have to win the election. But imagine it. I mean, how would you spend all your green savings account credits, Pierre?
Yeah, I see that.
I was thinking. I heard this morning, or one of the news reports says, or you could use it to save up in your savings account to buy an electric car. And I'm thinking, well, how much gasoline am I going to have to actually buy to accumulate enough credit in my green savings account where I can go out and buy a $100,000 Tesla?
Yeah. Yesterday, first of all, Mercedes unveiled its brand new electric sedan. Absolutely spectacular vehicle. Mm-hmm. It's going to be in the hundreds, $100,000, $150 maybe. Porsche today, I got an email from Porsche. I love to live vicariously here, so I might as well get these emails if I'm not driving around myself.
Sure.
Porsche is lauding the fact that it's Taycan, and I may have mispronounced that.
Taycan, yeah.
T-A-Y.
Yeah.
It is its electric vehicle. It is going to outsell the 911, which is its most iconic model.
Yep.
It is going to outsell it. So look, if you're Elon Musk, you're looking over your shoulder. You're probably happy for the company because it means that there's a global buy-in. But it also challenges market share, and that'll be an imposition on their expansion plans.
Okay. I heard a lot in the financial press this week about Coinbase. What is Coinbase?
So you've got all of these cryptos. We all know that Bitcoin and Ethereum, the number 2 crypto coin, both hit all-time highs this week. A couple of days ago, hit all-time highs. Dogecoin, which is a more fun version of crypto coins, it's got a tremendous group of people who love that coin. It doesn't serve a particular purpose necessarily. It's not a very strong blockchain, but its adherents absolutely love it, and they include the Prime Minister's own brother, who's a huge Dogecoin fan. So, you bring a critical mass of people together around anything, whether that's flower pots, crypto, or the Canadian dollar, and you're going to find value in that. And if there's ability to trade it, to exchange it, then you've got even more value. And that's what Coinbase is all about. It is the biggest of the exchanges. It went public on NASDAQ. And I think it's trading right now with a market cap of just shy of $100 billion, maybe $85 billion U.S. right now. And it's a place where you would go. You, Rob, could do it. Your listeners could do it. The Prime Minister himself, who I'm told has some Bitcoin, could go and open an account and be able to trade his Bitcoin for cash, trade it for Ethereum, on and on and on.
Oh, I see. Okay. Very interesting. We'll be watching it all unfold in this brave new world of ours, Pierre. Have a safe week. Oh, sorry, Pierre. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I envy you up at Lake Tortiere this week, and I hope you're going to stay dry and warm.
Just waiting for the loons to arrive. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, my friend. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, Pierre Bourque, Newswatch. We're back. We'll talk about the local situation with COVID-19 with Keith Egli, chair of the Ottawa Public Health Board and city councillor for Knoxdale-Maryville Ward. Just ahead, Rob Snow Show, City News.
It started out with a small outdoor booth in what was called Artist Alley, which is actually the area just outside our store on William Street, where for a couple of years we sold our jewelry directly on the street. And then we slowly evolved to having an indoor location in this building, 55 Barwood Market Square. We then moved to another location in Place de Ville, and then moved back down here on Dalhousie Street at Eargear in the 90s, and then back into this building again in 2000 as a collection. I do a collection of jewelry called Cirque that's mainly beaded work with a combination of semi-precious and vintage beads. And then she does a hat collection called Fanfreluche that's all cut and sewn hats in a variety of fabrics and for all of the seasons of the year. We've curated and sourced the artisans that we represent in a lot of different ways over the years since it's been, since 1985. Some people come to us since we're known, and other artisans that we represent might recommend that they come and see us. Some people we find at craft shows, or we see their work, somebody wears it in, and we go and track it down and bring it. And then some people, interestingly, are with us in one medium, and then sometimes they evolve to another. They're all Canadian and mainly local. With the roughly 50 people that we have, I'd say more than half of those are Ottawa-Gatineau, and then the rest are from other cities in Canada, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, etc. If you can afford it, go to a small business and spend some money. It's lovely when you come in and, give me a pep talk and tell me how much you love this place and you've been coming here for years. But if you can afford it, please spend some money too, because all the pep talks in the world are not going to pay my rent, which is still full rent even when we're closed. Then secondly, if you can't afford to spend money, follow the businesses that you want to support on social media. Go to their Instagram, go to their Facebook, follow their Twitter, and then retweet, share their Facebook page, like and comment, because if you can't afford to, as many of us can't right now, to do extra expenditures, doing all of those little things like that will raise the visibility of those small businesses, and hopefully for them result in some online or curbside or other business for them.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
What I'm going to explain to you is that the situation in Ottawa is the worst that it has been to date during this pandemic. That our healthcare system, if trends continue, will be for the first time at significant risk. That minimizing the impact of that means bending the curve now.
Okay, that was the Assistant Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Malachny, this week, outlining the situation in our city as we welcome to our program the chair of the Ottawa Health Board, Keith Egli, City Councillor, Knoxdale-Maryville Ward. Good morning, Councillor.
Morning, Rob.
Nice to hear from you. How would you describe the current situation?
I think Dr. Malachny is bang on. We're seeing circumstances that we have not seen before. CHEO has opened its ICU doors for the first time ever to adults. We have had a string of days where case numbers are in excess of 300. Dr. Malachny is right. We're at a critical juncture here, and vaccines are rolling out, but not as quickly as we would like them to roll out due to supply issues.
Right.
And even when
So what has that meant here in Ottawa? What has that meant here in Ottawa?
Well, what it's meant immediately is that as more groups are assigned a priority status by the province as we go from phase 1 to phase 2, it means that there is growing pressure for different groups to get vaccinated, and we appreciate that at public health, but and at the city, which is our partner, and the hospitals, which are our partner in running the vaccination clinics, but we need supply. There's certainly capacity in the city to vaccinate more people in terms of locations, trained staff, but without the supply, we can't vaccinate to our fullest potential at this point.
And when do you expect that situation to improve, Councillor?
Well, again,
or are is the city the last to know, kind of thing?
Yeah. So it's trickle down, right? The feds are buying it on the international market, and then what they can get, they're sharing that information and supply with the provinces, and then the province decides, how much each city and town or health unit rather is going to get. So, in terms of having that information and being able to act on it, the city comes, down the food chain, so to speak, and so we work with the information we have, and as I've said, we're prepared to ramp up. We can vaccinate more people if we have supply, but we need to know the supply is there, that there's a steady stream, that it's consistent and reliable, in order to set those appointments, because we don't want to get into a scenario, Rob, where we're setting appointments for people and then finding out that, for example, the latest Moderna, supply is not going to arrive, and then we have to go to the problems and difficulties of reaching out to everybody who's booked an appointment, saying sorry, we have to reschedule that appointment. So we try and schedule as we know the vaccine support will be there. But which means we open up opportunities and then we close them up, then we open them up, then we close them up, in terms of people's ability to book. But we think that's a better way to do it than to say, Rob Snow, you have an appointment next Thursday, and then scrambling to try and get a hold of you to let you know on Wednesday that, in fact, the supply isn't there.
Okay. I know the Premier has said province-wide the goal is about 150,000 doses a day. Yesterday was about 105,000. We'll know the latest number in probably about 20-25 minutes. Doses per day administered. What is our capacity here? Do you know that figure right offhand?
Well, I know what our capacity offhand per month is. I'm told by Anthony DeMonte, who's head of our emergency services and is a big part of coordinating the mass vaccination clinics, that we have a capacity to vaccinate 300,000 plus if supply is there. At city sites, and that doesn't include vaccine supply that may be coming in through alternate routes. For example, the vaccines that go to pharmacies go directly from the province to the pharmacies and don't flow through the city. So we can again
about 10,000 a day or something like that, right?
Yeah, we can do more than 300,000 a month. So.
Okay.
But again, it's like a car sitting in the driveway. If you don't have gas, it's not going anywhere.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's what we need.
Okay, I have to ask you what you think is going on with this postal code business, the K2V postal code being included on a list of COVID-19 hotspots. How do you think something like that happened?
It is a bit of a head scratcher. K2V is not an area that the city or public health said was a priority zone. We have 21 priority zones that we consider need to be addressed first. So K2V doesn't fit into those parameters. The description that the province has provided of K2V and the rationale, congregate homes, seniors, those sorts of things, it sounds a lot like the profile of another postal code, which is K2B in the city. So I don't know,
if I could just interrupt you there. For example, your council colleague, Councillor Gower, said it may be a case of fat thumbs. And we're going to play a clip here. We're just going to play a clip here, Councillor. Sure. Just hold on. This is Councillor Glenn Gower, Stittsville Councillor.
There's one idea that has been floated around. Perhaps it was a mistake. if you look at your keyboard, K to B would be one keystroke away, and K to B in Ottawa does have some neighborhoods where we've seen a higher number of positive cases among residents. So perhaps it was a mistake, perhaps that the data was analyzed incorrectly. I don't know. I just
makes as much sense as anything. There are calls for investigations, and the auditor should look at it or whatever. But maybe it's a case of it could come down to a typo. I don't know, Councillor. It's very strange, though.
It's not an area that we recommend it. I know that, and Glenn's explanation is as good as any as to how it ended up on the list.
Okay. Premier Ford is going to make an announcement about more restrictions. I don't know what he's going to say at 2:30 this afternoon, but as a city councillor and the chair of the health board, what would you like to hear?
Well, again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where they're going to go. One consistent theme that has come up is, and one that public health is supportive of, is making available paid sick days for people. We want people to get tested. We want people to stay home if they're sick. But if you're working in a workplace that doesn't provide paid sick days, and that's the case for many frontline workers, it makes it very difficult to do that, Rob, when you have to decide between going into work and getting your paycheck so you can put food on the table, or staying home and not getting paid. So that's something I think that could be done. It's something that certainly public health would be supportive of, and I know a number of public health agencies and have spoken to that across the provinces as a way forward.
Okay. Thank you for your time this morning, Councillor.
No problem at all.
All the best, sir. Thank you for the work of everybody there at Ottawa Public Health. Keith Egli, Chair of the Health Board, City Councillor, Knoxdale-Maryville Ward. 1 hour down. Talkback hour is coming up next, and it's the Friday free-for-all, so it's wide open on our phone lines at 750-1310. Grab a line now. Love to hear from you to end the week. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
This is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, April 16th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it's 4 degrees. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. We're just getting the latest COVID case numbers for the day from the province. I'll give those to you shortly, but first, we're expecting the modeling numbers. What's COVID going to look like weeks from now? It means we're getting more restrictions from the government because the numbers show an incredible increase. The new restrictions going to be announced this afternoon at 2:30. What they are? We're figuring that out. Here's City News Queen Park's reporter Richard Southern.
Well, Premier Ford is going to announce new restrictions at 2:30 this afternoon, but at this point, we have a better sense, I think, of what he won't announce as opposed to what he will. A curfew is off the table. I'm told Premier Ford and his cabinet did discuss in great detail last night the possibility of implementing a curfew here in Ontario, but ultimately decided against it. Sources also tell me there will not be any changes to daycare. What we could see is perhaps some new restrictions on manufacturing facilities, perhaps as well even more restrictions on non-essential retail. What do the medical experts want to see announced today? Colin Furness is an epidemiologist at the University of Toronto.
We need to close everything that isn't utilities, health, and food and medicine.
Any new restrictions on retail will for sure be met with some resistance. Dan Kelly from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business says today, quote, "My first thought is what is there left to close?" I'm Richard Southern.
City News time, 10:02. Now, those latest numbers of COVID cases in the province, it is another daily record high. 4,812 new cases today. Of that number, 366 of the cases are in Ottawa. 56 more in the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, 13 in Leeds, 8 in Renfrew. There were over 64,300 tests completed for these numbers, which have an 8.2% positivity rate. The province also says another 25 people have died just in the last day due to COVID. Now, a top official with the World Health Organization says there are early signs the transmission of COVID-19 may be slowing across several of the 53 countries that make up the European region. But Dr. Hans Klug says overall the spread of the virus in Europe continues to surge.
The situation in our region is serious. 1.6 million new cases are reported every week. That's 9,500 every hour. 160 people every minute.
Worldwide, nearly 3 million deaths have been linked to COVID-19. The U.S., Brazil, and Mexico have reported the highest number of deaths collectively, more than 1.1 million. City News time, 10:03. Now your forecast, and here's weather specialist Denise Andriacci.
We've got light rain this morning through Smiths Falls, and then we're cloudy with showers this afternoon. The Ottawa region tapping into that cooler air mass once again with a bit of active weather, but the weekend looks good. We'll have sun and cloud both days and temperatures near or above seasonal. Your daytime high today for Smiths Falls, only 8 degrees.
And right now with some light rain, it's 4 degrees in both Ottawa and in Smiths Falls. This weekend's funeral for Prince Philip tomorrow is going to be a modest gathering.
Coronavirus restrictions only allow 30 to attend the funeral of Prince Philip on Saturday at St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. They'll include Philip's widow, the Queen, and her 4 children. Heir to the throne, Prince Charles, his brothers, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward, and his sister, Princess Anne, also attending the funeral, will be the Queen's 8 grandchildren, including Prince William and Prince Harry. Other senior royals and 3 of Philip's German relatives have also been invited. Charles de Ledesma, London.
And I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
It's the Friday free-for-all. That is always our favorite hour of the week around here. It is always an adventure. During the Friday free-for-all, we don't come up with the topics. You come up with the topics, and we do our best to play along. So, the call-in line, ladies and gentlemen, 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. The email address, therobsnowshow@ottawa.citynews.ca. Doug Ford's next move, hot topic. That's been a hot topic all week. Give me a call now. There may be some news on that later today, as you heard, 2:30 this afternoon. We get the doom and gloom report at 1 o'clock. It's going to be this bad if we don't do this. That's at 1 o'clock with all the experts, Dr. Steiny Brown and the crew. They'll do their thing, the modeling, the forecasting, the doom and gloom report. And then it's folks and friends. Folks and friends, I'm sorry to do this for the third week in a row, but we have to tighten down things even more. That'll be Doug Ford, 2:30. 2:30. I'll throw this out there. I'm just wondering what you're hoping to hear this afternoon, given the COVID-19 situation right now. Cabinet met yesterday. It's meeting right now. The cabinet meeting it was supposed to start at 10 o'clock this morning, so they probably just sat down at the table. And the reports say this morning it's about the fine-tuning. Everything was up for discussion yesterday. But how far will Doug Ford go? How far should he go? 750-1310. From the sounds of it, based on what's coming out of the reporters at Queen's Park, Richard Sutherland and the gang, what people are whispering into reporters' ears, I don't know how much further Doug Ford is really going to go. Despite this new report that suggests Ontario is on pace, even with the vaccination program, Ontario on pace to record as many as 18,000 cases a day. 18,000 cases a day by the end of May. Okay, that's the worst case scenario. Maybe if things go well, we'll get out of this with only having 10,000 cases a day, which is what? More than double what today's figure is at 4,812. 4,812. A new record. Yay. Good for us. Gold medal performance. That would mean 1,800 patients in ICU across the province. 1,800. Just shy of 700 on that figure this morning. 680-something people in ICU. People in ICU. I mean, 1,800 people in ICU, potentially across the province. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners. Can we stop, pause, and reflect for a moment on that number, what that would mean? About the people in our hospitals trying to save lives. All the staff, all the nurses, all the doctors, all the therapists, all the support staff, the lab techs, everything, all of it. The effort it would take, the toll it would take on them to try and handle a caseload like that. 150 used to be the red line. We were told constantly, you have to do whatever you can do to try to avoid getting beyond 150 patients in ICU all across Ontario. This forecast today is going to say if we don't get our act together, it could be 1,800. Okay? It's at almost 700 already. We don't even have the bodies. We don't even have the human resources to treat that many people in ICU across Ontario. You see, we're going begging for can you send us people? It is frightening what is happening now. Shouldn't government be doing whatever it can to lighten the load of our healthcare heroes on the front lines of this pandemic? I don't know what Premier Ford is going to say today, how willing he is to go, how far he will go when it comes to introducing more restrictive measures. 750-1310, it's the Friday free-for-all. It's the Friday free-for-all on the Rob Snow Show. Ron's calling in from Florida. Ron is our snowbird down there from the Ottawa area. Ron, good to hear from you again.
Good morning, Rob. I hope you're well.
Yeah, everything's good here, yeah.
Good. I know it's free for all, but it's sort of hard to talk about anything. But you know what?
Sure.
We've actually, I thought you might be interested to know, we literally made decision yesterday. We're extending our stay down here.
Oh, you are?
To avoid coming back. Partly on the advice of a friend of ours. She's a retired nurse, but she's helping out with the COVID response in Ottawa. And she said better to stay away 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, really?
We can't stay that long. My wife has a doctor's appointment we don't want to miss.
Right.
So we're unfortunately only extending it about 10 days. But we did make that decision based on just the way things are going up north.
Yeah, don't blame me at all, Ron. Now, if for people who missed your original call a few weeks ago, you're both vaccinated now, right?
Yes, we've had our
fully vaccinated, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And it was the recommended 3 weeks between doses.
To the minute.
To the minute, right? Yeah, it wasn't 4 months, right? It wasn't 4 months.
No.
So look, give me a sense, because Florida's been pretty wide open.
It is.
Pretty wide open for a long. Yeah, and pretty wide open for a long time. What's the situation down there? Do you have hospitals crashing and everything else, or what's going on?
Actually, no. We follow the Tampa Bay Times regularly.
Yeah.
They've got 22% capability for beds.
22% capability. Okay.
Cases are now just about equal.
Right.
The positivity rate is almost identical to home.
Okay.
We've been tracking, even before we came down, we made the conscious decision. We were tracking everything just to try to get a feel for whether it was safe.
Right.
But we're not doing anything ourselves. I did mention that last time. We're not socializing. On my morning walk, I passed a fellow on the sidewalk, and we didn't jump out of the way, but it was like a 1 second, 2 second proximity.
Right.
They're more relaxed down here. Something I did not get mentioning last phone call, Rob, I wanted to... seems to me it's our healthcare system, and I do not mean the good doctors, nurses, and all the people that work there. It's the system. We don't have the capability that they have down here.
Okay. All right, Ron. Best of luck. Best of luck. If I don't hear from you before you hit the road, feel free to call me from the road and let me know how things are going, okay? Thank you, sir.
Do.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you. Yeah. Debbie, Ottawa. Good morning, Debbie. Hi.
Yes.
Yes.
I work. I lease apartments.
You lease apartments?
And yes, in large high rises in the K1V area, so the worst kind of area as far as the COVID cases.
Or so we're told, right?
Yeah. Well, I kind of believe it because of the amount of residents who don't like to wear masks in common areas.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I could see that being a hot spot anyway. But we can work. So we have like 2 in office. For some reason, they want 2 people to be in there at all times of the sales staff or leasing staff. But the other time you can work from home, right? 2 weeks. Everything I can do from home.
Right.
And the doors are locked, so people can't come in anyway.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, why are we being required to work with, close to somebody else who,
right. So your employer wants you to come into work a couple of times a week.
For 2 weeks out of the month, basically.
2 weeks a month. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So basically, we're each on a 2-week rotation, right? We work 2 weeks from
2 weeks on, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the thing is, if I can work those 2 weeks from home anyway, why are we being required?
Good question. Good question. Did you ask your employer that?
Yeah, I think there's not, because we're essential, I guess. But it's something that makes no sense to me.
Right.
Because you can do
everything at home, and the doors to your office are locked.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I can show up to your place of work. Hey, my name is Rob Snow. I'm looking to rent an apartment. Can you help me? You're not even going to let me in the building, right?
Right. We do it on the phone. We do it by email. I send videos out of the suites, things like that, right?
Right.
So meet up with people and hand them their keys, everything when they move.
Right. Okay. Well, you said you asked your employer. What kind of... Did you ask your employer?
We've had the discussion. We've just been kind of told that that the other people in the office, the admin and all those, work from home during the shutdowns.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I think because sales is driving things, right? And because there's such a high amount of vacancies.
Okay.
That they figure we'll work harder.
Debbie, I don't want you to name the employer, but is this a large property management firm in the city?
Yeah.
Would I know this name? Like, would people know the name?
Probably. Yeah,
Probably. Okay.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
not a small player.
No.
Okay.
No, no, nationwide thing, yeah.
Oh, a nationwide thing. Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of units
Yeah.
do you have there? 1 and 2 bedrooms, or?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And you have a lot of vacancies, you said.
Yeah, it's pretty...
Interesting.
Yeah, decent amount, yeah.
What's a 1-bedroom going for these days?
Well, it varies. So roughly around, say, $1,200.
$1,200. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it varies, but it's
It
just,
varies.
I think it's just. I think the idea, on their part mostly, is that we will sell more if we're actually in off. You know what I mean? Kind of mentality. If we're right there. You know.
I get it, Debbie. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me what your employer is doing, and maybe your employer won't even be allowed to do it by the end of the day. Who knows? Well, we'll have to wait and see what Doug Ford has to say today.
Yeah, and I really don't know what's, it is confusing. I don't know. I'm reading it all and trying to figure out, are we or not? I don't.
Yeah, your phone's starting to crack up, Deb, so I'm going to move along, okay? Stay safe. Stay safe, my friend. We'll be right back. Michael, Paul, Owen, all your calls on the way. Lots of phone lines available for you. 750-1310, Talkback Hour, Friday, free for all on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
Well, we all loved our rock T-shirts growing up, right? It was our badge. Hey, we went to this concert. We knew that band inside out. So we kept doing that and kept promoting that. What's sort of happening now is that audience is dying. I always say the earth is flat. So the 60s rockers are falling off the end of the earth. So you don't see as big a sales anymore because my audience is disappearing. What's sort of helping to promote that history is the kids are buying vinyl. And luckily we have a vinyl shop in the neighborhood here, Record Center. So what's happening is I've seen kids come in with their dad. And the dad say, hey, do you have any Beatles shirts? Do you have any CBGB? Do you have any of this? I said, well, why? He said, well, because my daughter's into it. She's wearing my T-shirt. So slowly it's coming back, right? The kids are, I think, getting fed up with the generic music that's out there. And they want to click into something that, first of all, links them to their parents, something that they thoroughly enjoy now, and maybe they're passing it on to their grandkids. Pandemic has been a couple of things, definitely hard on everybody. So much messaging that's out there that people don't understand, stats that every day, Jesus Murphy, like I'm getting a headache just reading this stuff, right? So really it was just trying to understand where we were going to go from there. The city of Ottawa all of a sudden said, everybody's got to wear a mask. You got to wear it on the bus. People were scrambling, okay? And I had, the store next door had really big windows, so I just flooded the window with masks. Well, that was the activity that saved the business. People were coming in buying 2, 3, 4 masks at a time at $20 a pop here. But my masks were so different. They were the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Queen, all the pop culture. Everything else out there was medical masks. And right, so people said, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to show my rock and roll. So it became the new T-shirt as far as I'm concerned. Well, what I've done, I'm Hindenburg. I'm now at 1114A Wellington Street, which is next door to the Fab Gear store. And the reason I've changed names, I've rebranded the store, is because I was planning on retiring. And in December, I go, oh, I'm not going to retire. But I've committed to changing what the store is about. So I came up with a new name, Fab Gear's Rock Shop, where legends are dressed. And essentially get that message out. I prefer, if the shirt don't fit, you come in, you try another one on. People like to feel the fabrics with clothing. It's amazing. You'll come in and go, oh, I love that. Oh, can I try this? So that's the big difference. I'm not out to make a gazillion dollars. I stick the way I am, old school. I take cash, we take cards. Come on in and talk to the owner.
It's time to talk back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Friday free-for-all as we await Doug Ford's latest news conference, 2:30 this afternoon. I don't think there's going to be a curfew by the sounds of it. I gather Sylvia Jones, bigwig in the Ford cabinet, Solicitor General, she said yesterday she was worried people might riot if we put in a curfew. Well, they had a riot in Montreal. We don't want to have people rioting on Yonge Street in Toronto. I don't know. With all due respect, I mean, if that's the talking point, it's a pretty flimsy one. Another talking point from Ford, and I will say this. Apparently, the Queen's Park media tried to nail down Andrea Horwath. Well, where do you stand on curfews, Andrea Horwath? Would you bring in a curfew if you were the premier, Andrea Horwath? And she wouldn't answer the question. She wouldn't come out one way or the other to say that she's in favor of a curfew. But the Ford government is saying there's no evidence a curfew would be beneficial. And I don't even think that that's true. Quebec has a curfew. And look, I get it. Quebec is no utopia, but it's certainly not the Hades that Ontario is either. The biggest policy difference between Ontario and Quebec is the curfew. Quebec had 1,500 cases yesterday. Ontario, 4,700, 4,800 today. Quebec's population, 8.5 million, 14.5 million in Ontario. So you account for the population difference. Quebec's numbers like having 2,500 cases in Ontario. Okay. The only big difference is the curfew. Alberta doesn't have a curfew. Alberta had 1,600 cases yesterday. 1,600. Population, 4.3 million. It's like having 5,000 cases a day in Ontario. I'm just thinking out loud here. Because the Ford people are saying, no evidence a curfew works. Well, you have one province that has one and two provinces that don't. The two provinces that don't have one have way more cases than the one that does. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Michael in Bell's Corners. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Rob. How are you today?
Hanging in there, buddy. Hanging. I'm trying to stay positive. Okay.
Always.
I really am,
I'm calling about the carbon tax.
Oh, just ruined my day. You call me about that. No, go ahead. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
But it's not the carbon tax that bothers me.
Yeah.
It's how much GST they're going to collect on it.
Yeah, well.
It's between $500 million to $1 billion a year extra GST.
Right.
Because everything that gets carbon taxed, GST
it's
goes
tax on tax. A tax on tax, yeah.
Yeah. Because I know if gas goes up 1 cent a liter, they make $1 million a day in Canada.
Well, I mean, it's not a small sum. I mean, it's hundreds of millions of dollars a year just in GST on the carbon tax that they're collecting. Yeah.
But they say that they're giving us all the money back from the carbon tax, but they don't say anything about the GST.
Well, I mean, this is the great bait and switch, I guess. With the Liberals and their carbon tax, you get it at tax time if you're getting a rebate, right?
Yes.
And now the O'Toole scheme is, well, we'll set up a savings account for you. You remember Club Z points, Michael? You remember everybody used to get Club Z points? This is how I guess it would work. Buy a new toaster, get so many points so you can buy a green toaster next time around through Club Z. It's silly. Yeah. It's silliness. It's silliness.
But what about all the people who don't drive?
Yeah.
So they're not paying anything on gas.
Right. Well.
But when they go to buy groceries, everything's going to go up because the trucks are going to have to pay more, but they don't get any rebate for it.
Yeah. I guess what bothers me is that Aaron O'Toole, when he was a candidate running for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada, said over and over and over, David has the clips. He put all the clips together this morning. All the times Aaron O'Toole said, I'm going to scrap the carbon tax. And here he is, how many times later, how many months later is he? $20 a ton going up to $50 a ton. Roll tape on that, David.
Yes or no? Will you scrap the carbon tax?
Yes. A tax on the poorest, a tax on small business, not a smart plan. Yes, we will scrap Mr. Trudeau's carbon tax. Mr. Trudeau's carbon tax is unfair.
The carbon tax is bad for a number of reasons.
Let me be clear. Canada's Conservatives will repeal Mr. Trudeau's carbon tax.
Now here we are. You have to have a carbon tax. It's just crazy. What's going on? Paul, Canada. Good morning, Paul.
Yeah, good morning, Rob.
Hi, Paul.
Hi. Actually, I'm calling in regarding the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Okay.
And actually, I was impressed with Doug Ford, how he showed he got the vaccine. It was AstraZeneca.
Yep.
I think this type of thing can help give more confidence with people, especially, with the concerns about that vaccine that you hear in the newspaper and stuff. But the one that I wasn't impressed with, and again, I don't know her situation, because it really is, you got to be below 55, but was Theresa Tam, when she had her news conference, and they said, well, you posted this picture that you were taking a vaccine, and she went on about how I followed the normal procedures, I applied online, I didn't know what I was going to get, as opposed to, like, again, I don't know what her age is, but certainly I don't want her taking it if it's not the recommended scenario, right? But,
Okay.
But I feel that was a leadership position or opportunity. If somebody in the federal government would say, here I am getting the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Oh, I see.
Just to build...
That it was an opportunity to say, calm some nerves, so to speak, and send
a leadership opportunity.
Sure.
And I just feel generally the federal side, like, really, I find there's a lack of leadership there. For example, the Health Canada lady that retired last August, and, and all this stuff. I just... that particular example, I felt with the AstraZeneca it wouldn't have hurt,
I hadn't thought of that, but thank you for making that point, Paul.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Rob.
Great.
I enjoy your show.
Oh, I thank you for calling. One more? Should we wait? One more. Okay, one more. One more before halftime, Owen. You're taking us into halftime, Owen. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, thank you, Rob. I'm a big fan of the show. Thank you
for calling, sir. What's on your mind today?
Well, I'm an Uber Eats delivery driver. I've been actually an Uber Eats delivery driver through the entire pandemic, including a little bit before in the city of Ottawa.
God bless you.
And FedEx courier for half of the year. So I was 6 days a week out there, 7 days a week.
Okay.
At 6 hours a day. I mean, I've remained safe, thankfully. I haven't caught anything, which is great.
Yeah. Knock on wood for all.
Yeah. But one thing that, that I hope to see out of the announcement, I do hope to see that there is some kind of enforcement of masks wearing in public in parks. And that there's actually something that hasn't been done, different than a curfew, is that there is enforcement of people who break the rules. Because I see a part of the city that a lot of people don't. Going to people's houses, I see sides that's hard to see actually today. Even if I patrol streets, I see people when they're at their most comfortable, and the amount of grouping I see of kids out there, I will lose count in my first 45 minutes on parks, benches, along the glebe. I will lose count very quickly of grouping teenagers and grouping people, specifically of the under 30s, and it's been through the entirety of it. There's no way that can't be a factor. It's just constant, so I hope to see that because I think it is a factor.
Increased enforcement. Yep. Apparently one of the things they're looking at, higher fines and increased enforcement.
I would do that because wouldn't it be a greater cost of patrolling a curfew anyways? If you're shifting the cost, you're either going to, to enforce a curfew, you have to put boots on the ground to patrol it.
Sure.
If you're not doing that, you're going to add the cost onto the healthcare system. So, I mean, it's just a balance sheet that you're putting the cost in different places on. Well, if you can shift the cost, because there will be one anyways, to the place that could potentially have the greatest impact, why wouldn't you do it? I mean, I remember the first time an officer came to my house when I was a kid and said, "Don't sneak out of the house, kid," and it scared me crapless until for 2 years, right?
Right.
I mean, my parents did that, and I thought they were great for it, right? I mean, why not try that?
Gotcha, Owen. Thank you for calling, sir. Are you a first-time caller? Is this the first time you've called?
I'm a first-time caller.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Stay safe. Thank you.
Bye-bye. You too. It's halftime. We'll be back right after the news on the Talkback Hour. Friday, free for all. Anything goes, within reason, on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, April 16th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 5 degrees. Here's what's making news this hour. New cases of COVID-19 today and another record number in the province, 4,812. It has an 8.2% positivity rate out of the number of people tested. That was 64,300. Now, of these new cases, 366 are in Ottawa, 56 more in Eastern Ontario, 13 in Leeds, 8 more in Renfrew. The province also says another 25 people have died from COVID-19 in the past day. New restrictions are coming in our province, the announcement being made this afternoon. New record number of cases, so we do know there's not going to be a curfew, although what was discussed around the cabinet table is confidential, but the decision was made not to bring in that particular measure. Again, no curfew in the province. But there could be more measures affecting retail. Now, Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca has asked for all COVID decision-making be taken away from the Premier and handed to someone with what he called an unimpeachable scientific integrity. We're expecting the Premier's announcement on more restrictive measures this afternoon at 2:30. Canadian Medical Association calling for an extraordinary measure, including sharing provincial health care resources and dropping the per capita approach to vaccine distribution in order to address the COVID-19 crisis unfolding in several provinces. City News time, 10:33. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
2:30 for that news conference, as Andrew mentioned. There may be news on construction. I'll be curious to see what they have about some kind of construction lockdown. There's been a lot of talk about it. Maybe closing construction sites down for a few weeks based on what's been leaked to the media. It's been on the table. They're talking about it right now, maybe fine-tuning it. News reports that construction sites are a big source of infection. If you remember last time when they shut down construction, say a year ago, it was basically anything that wasn't government construction. You know, if you're building a hospital or twinning a road or something like that would continue, but building a condo tower, doing home renovations, that would end. In fact, I remember because they just around the corner here from the radio station in the South End here for City News and Shay and all our partners here. They were building at the time, just during the first lockdown, just before the first lockdown, they had just started construction on the new Giant Tiger headquarters in the big warehouse. And I'll tell you what, when that lockdown ended and when they lifted the restrictions on construction, they wasted no time in finishing that building. They worked overtime to finish. It's a beautiful building, by the way. I don't know how many people are working in it right now. And I don't know what they're going to do with the old Giant Tiger. I mean, you've got two Giant Tiger stores right next to each other there. But it's quite the building, and they really, really, I think they may have ramped things up, worrying that they were going to get closed down again. And they, here we are, right? But you can understand the hesitation. It's construction season right now. I mean, and this is the major economic driver in the province. A lot of jobs on the line. But I drove by a construction site yesterday, road work. You got half a dozen guys in a semicircle. I mean, some of them are wearing masks. Some of them aren't. It's, like it was optional or something. And we've seen how these variants can just tear right through a workplace. I mean, like one person gets it. That's all it takes. One person gets it. Everyone gets it. But it's probably a no to a curfew, and it's some construction might be closed, some might not be closed. And maybe more closures of so-called non-essential businesses. Maybe all non-essential retail is closed. I mean closed, like not even curbside pickup would be allowed. That was something that they talked about yesterday. Or reducing business hours. Open later, close earlier. They've done that before. Higher fines, increased enforcement. They're looking at all of this stuff. 2:30 this afternoon. We'll have the details and the coverage for you. You can bet on City News. Sharon in Bell's Corners, good morning. You're on City News.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Sharon.
Well, it seems like this nightmare is never going to end. I don't want Doug Ford to shut down construction. If it's an issue because people are not wearing masks, then that's what bylaw should be doing, checking out that.
Okay.
The businesses have been hurt enough. So if they know where the problem is, and they claim that some of the big problems are in food processing plants and the big Amazon warehouses and these big places, and they want to go in and supposedly, subject to availability, of course, of vaccine, vaccinate people, then that's what should be done. And the local medical officers of health should not be able to overrule like the guy did in Brampton when they wanted to give him 5,000 extra vaccines, to get the hot spots, and he refused. He wanted to stay by order of, your age.
Yeah.
So they have to find a way to address the problem areas if they know what they are. I'm beginning to think none of them have a clue where the problem is. On the curfew, why not? This whole thing that cops can't be out patrolling every road, they're not out patrolling every road and every street in Quebec and have them shut down. They're out patrolling like they normally do on their regular shifts.
Right.
And if they see somebody out,
sure,
then they stop them.
Yeah, and they would be at high traffic points or whatever.
That's right. So, what's the big deal about that? I'd rather have that than have businesses further hurt and the economy further devastated because of construction shutdowns. How are we going to be able to ever get back to having some sort of a reasonable economy and people have jobs in the future? And another thing I wanted to mention, two other things. Trudeau, I don't know if you saw the clip in the paper yesterday, that he's going to issue another formal apology next month, this time to the Italian Canadians because of the treatment they got here during the Second World War. This guy is so good at apologizing for everybody else, but never for himself. And it really makes me mad that there he is going to apologize for something that took place in the 40s, when we were at war, when Italy was allied with Germany, and now he's going to stand up and apologize, and he's going to, of course, think completely out of context because we're not at war right now. So he loves to apologize for these things. Maybe he'd like to apologize to the families of the Canadian soldiers who died in Italy fighting against the Nazis. He never, ever wants to apologize for himself. I'd love him to come out and say, look, I screwed up on this whole COVID thing. I apologize. Then, I think...
Well, this week he said he has no regrets.
Yeah, I know.
Anything.
Wasn't that just astonishing that he would say that? He's so full of himself. And on good old carbon tax and Aaron O'Toole, thank God I didn't vote for him. I voted for Peter O'Toole, but it's my party, and he should step down.
Okay.
He's gone completely against everything he said.
Yeah.
And he just, whoever he's listening to, I have no idea, but we can't blame the people that are giving him advice. He's supposed to have some brains. Obviously, he doesn't. He doesn't have a winning proposal. It's just a joke what he's come up with. And of course, the argument it's not a tax. Anything that charges me more is a tax. And how he could stand there with a straight face and argue his position after he argued the opposite position for the last umpteen years.
Sure.
We have no way to throw him out. I understand that but if he really cares about
we'll see. If he does not match what Andrew Scheer delivered in the last election, and the way things are looking right now, he's going to do a lot worse.
Yeah.
I don't think he's long for the job myself. The knives will be out. So.
That's true, but I want him gone now.
Okay, well,
we're going to have an election
that's
soon.
not going to happen.
No, I know it isn't. Isn't it too bad we don't have a way to get rid of him? So we're going to have that idiot Trudeau, for another 4 years to do more devastation to this country.
All right, thank you, Sharon.
Okay.
Thank you. Good to hear. Stay safe. I guess, when it comes to Aaron O'Toole, I just, why are you even bothering with this carbon tax? What have I been saying about the Aaron O'Toole-led Conservative Party when it comes to a carbon tax and climate change? Don't waste your time. That's what I have been saying. I believe my exact words were, I wouldn't spend 5 minutes obsessing over a carbon tax. Because you're the Conservative leader. It's not going to matter. whatever you come up with, it will never be enough to satisfy the true-believing eco-warriors. And you will never outbid the Liberals on climate change. Despite the Liberals' own sorry record on setting targets, making promises, and then failing to follow through. For the Conservative Party, it's no hill to die on. It's not worth the effort to make carbon taxing a priority. And yet, here we are, the day after Aaron O'Toole announced his plan to have the Conservative Party pitch a carbon tax to voters in the next election. Pretty much everything I said would happen is coming true so far. It's a flop, this policy. It's a farce, according to some of the reaction from the editorial class in the news media. Who came up with this? Did smart people actually sit in a room and come up with this? And another reason why I'm perturbed by the whole O'Toole carbon tax flip-flopping is that he didn't tell the truth. He lied to every single Canadian Conservative Party leadership voter, sold them a bill of goods. If Aaron O'Toole had said from the outset, from day one of his campaign to be leader, that as leader of the Conservative Party, he would have a $20 a ton carbon tax and eventually raise it up to $50 a ton, his leadership campaign would have gone nowhere. It never would have made it to the convention. He was saying the exact opposite. We're not going to play the clips again. But he looked people straight in the face and said he was going to cancel the carbon tax, get rid of it, annihilate it. Okay? The Justin Trudeau carbon tax. Not keep it intact and fiddle around with the proceeds and come up with some big government green savings account scheme, the 2021 version of Club Z. If this was the plan Aaron O'Toole was pitching to Canadian Conservatives during a leadership campaign, his results would have been net zero. There is a huge betrayal factor here for a lot of people. Daryl. Good morning, Daryl.
Good morning, Rob.
Hi there.
Hi. I loved your last caller, by the way.
Sharon. Yeah, she's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, this thing with the carbon tax, it is a cash grab. And it doesn't mean anything because so many people aren't going to benefit from it. And the guy lied, as you stated, through his teeth. And, I mean, they voted, they don't even believe in climate change. What the heck is he doing?
Well, good question. The belief is, Daryl, nobody will take the Conservative Party seriously unless you have a carbon tax. I don't know. Has the world evolved that much? Has the climate emergency thinking taken hold so much that you must have a carbon tax? I mean, Stephen Harper won a majority government, never promised to have a carbon tax. Joe Biden won the U.S. presidential election. He's planning a massive infrastructure program, but I can tell you one of the things he's not doing is having a carbon tax. The media asked him recently, are you going to raise gas taxes? You're planning to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on roads and bridges and all of the tunnels and all of this stuff. Are you going to raise gas taxes for the drivers that are going to use these roads? And Pete Buttigieg is in charge of that file, and he said, absolutely not. We will not raise gasoline taxes to pay for our infrastructure program. And that's Joe Biden, the moderate liberal. Here, the conservative leader wants a carbon tax, for crying out loud. 10:45, Rob Snow Show. This is City News.
An old-fashioned traditional grocery store. You're going to find a butcher, okay? You want a steak cut a certain way, you're going to get it. There's flour piled in the warehouse. There's mixers on the floor. There's flour on the floor. The bakery's rented out to Frank Nicolo. It's him and his son come in at night. They mix the dough, they roll the dough, and they bake the dough. It's not the traditional frozen and thaw and put it in the bin, okay? It's made from scratch 7 days a week. It's probably the only bakery left in Ottawa that does that. Then customer service. We're big on that. The cashiers, the deli, you're not, if you ask for something, they're not going to point, it's an aisle number 7. They're going to bring you there, okay? If you have too much groceries out, we'll take it out to your car. You know what I mean? There's nothing we don't do for our customers. And we evolved around our customers. They would come in and say, can you try getting me this? Can you get me this? So that's how we built the lineup we have now, okay? So we have a lot of unique items that someone that came over to, live in Canada hasn't seen this particular product, but we sourced it and we have it for them that, like something they used to have as a kid. We have a lot of those unique items, a lot, from like all over the world. And we source it through, distributors in Montreal and Toronto that bring in the product in bulk, and we piggyback off of them. Probably the largest European deli in Ottawa. We sell lots because people buy lots. It's nothing really complicated about that. We turn over a lot of product. We package it properly. We buy, and we're always consistent. You're always going to find, Cutty turkey breast, Saint Daniel mortadella. You're always going to get the same brands. We don't flip back and forth to save 20 cents. It's always the same brands the last 29 years. Best sandwiches in town. It's simple. It starts off with fresh bread every day baked in the store. Anything that's left over goes to breadcrumbs. So you're getting a fresh bun every day that was baked probably 4 hours before you get here, okay? Not only baked, made, like, mix the flour, roll the dough, proof the bread, and bake the bread, okay? Then all the ingredients come right off the shelves. Your lettuce, your tomatoes, all your condiments, and they're cut up fresh in the deli. Not like the big, corporate restaurant chains that your lettuce comes in shredded in a bag, you open it up and you throw it in the bin. Takes, 2 or 3 days to get here from California. How long is it in the bag? The big difference is like making a sandwich at home and you don't have to do the work. It's really what the trick is, and using the freshest ingredients possible.
It's time to talk back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
It's the final quarter of the Friday Free for All Talkback Hour. Got a great final hour of the program ahead. This week I had a chance to sit down with Greg Keelor. I say sit down with Greg Keelor. I called Greg Keelor at his farm just west of Toronto. Greg Keelor is one of the founding members of one of my favorite bands of all time, Blue Rodeo. And, it's Jim Cuddy, and it's Greg. It's Greg Keelor. And Greg has a new album. It's out today, as a matter of fact. See, that's how old I am. I still call them albums. They still call them out. The kids, David, they call them albums. What do they call them? Albums, I guess.
They're still called albums.
Still called albums.
Yeah. You drop an album now. You don't release it. You drop it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Share the Love. It's called. It will be very, very familiar to Blue Rodeo fans. Imagine what it's like to make music now in this era and what that does to your creativity. We get into all of that with Greg Keelor coming up right after the 11 o'clock news. Steve Warne, I'll talk Sens hockey any day of the week with Steve Warne, host of the Sens Nation podcast and the Steve Warne Project. So that's coming up, and we do the Queen's Park Weekend Review. So we have Gilles Bisson is like the only regular this week, the Democrat from Timmins. John Fraser is usually with us from the Liberals, but Steve Blais is in pitch hitting for John Fraser today. Steve is former city councilor, of course, and represents Ottawa, Orleans. And Goldie Ghamari is our progressive conservative today. Her riding is Carleton. And that's how we always wrap up the Rob Snow Show on a Friday morning. So all of that is ahead in the final hour of our program, but this is your hour. And look, Liz has been sitting there patiently waiting to get on the air. Sorry to keep you waiting. Liz, Findlay Creek.
Hi. Hi.
Hi there.
Good morning. I love your show.
Well, I love that. You listen to the show. Thank you so much for calling. So what's going on, Liz? What has prompted you to call today?
Well, two things.
Okay.
My daughter had a project that she needed to do, and we needed paintbrushes and stuff. I went into the dollar store and put them on the counter, and he said if it rings up and says, no, you can't have it, then it's non-essential.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay.
Great. Yeah. So it's just frustrating. I couldn't get a paintbrush, paint palette, anything. But I could get doggy bags.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And the second thing is, I got my shot yesterday. I'm happy to get it. My dad's 92,
Good for you.
and I took him in March, and he got his first shot, but I couldn't book the second shot.
Right.
And I tried and tried and tried. I phoned. I went online. So when I went in,
This is for your dad.
shot,
For your dad.
yeah.
Right.
So he got his first shot.
Yeah.
In March.
In March.
And it's the papers we got said 21 days, but I know there was an extension.
Right.
He got the Pfizer, and so when I booked mine, I booked one for him, and took him in at the same time, and said, look, I couldn't book the second shot. Can he get it now? Is he allowed to? Like, since I booked the shot.
Right.
And they said, no, he's not allowed to have a second shot until they come out with the proper rules. So it just drives me crazy what they do. Like,
Right.
let's.
But by rights,
get it right.
your father should be getting a shot sometime in July, right?
Yeah, he should be.
Should be.
But I took him in. I still can't get an appointment for him, though.
Still hasn't had an appointment booked yet.
Yeah.
And he's
Drives me
93.
crazy. He's 92 years old.
92. Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So it's very frustrating.
I imagine
Anyway,
so.
I love your show.
So, yeah,
and
but you had your first shot.
Yes, yes.
Do you know what kind of vaccine did you get?
I got the Pfizer. I wasn't going to go for the AstraZeneca.
Oh, really? You wouldn't have shown up. Oh, okay.
I wouldn't have. I've had blood clots before, so
I see. Okay.
I was just weary of it.
Yeah. And when is your second? Do you have an appointment for the second one? Or?
Yeah, in August.
In August. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All
Anyway,
right.
frustrating, but
yeah, I understand
thank
that.
you for.
Well, thank you, Liz, for calling.
Every day.
Yeah.
Super duper. Thank
We're
you.
doing what we can. Hey, David, have your parents been vaccinated yet?
No. They've been pre-registered at pharmacies, but they haven't got an appointment yet. Okay. They're over 55, so you call, you pre-register, and then they contact you when they have an appointment for you.
Oh, okay.
They did that, I guess 2 weeks ago now, but as far as I know, they haven't gotten a call back.
Yeah. Okay. My dad is 74. He's getting his first shot today. Yeah. At CBU, Cape Breton University. They've got a clinic on the campus of Cape Breton University. Pfizer. And his second dose is in 105 days from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Next, John. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good, sir. Thank you. What's up, man?
My issue is with locking down and shutting down construction is ridiculous.
Okay.
Reason being, I'm working at the Amazon site.
Okay.
You're talking pre-screening, safety. They got.
Is this the one they're building, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yep.
And they are crazy about the cleaning there, and everybody social distance, mask, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So construction is not the issue, and that's on most construction sites. Yet I look over at Costco, and Costco's parking lot in Barhaven is not a parking spot free. There's no lineups to get into the store, so where are all these people? They're in the stores.
Okay.
Same thing if you go to Chapman Mills with the Walmart and all that. Same thing. Parking lot jammed.
Yeah.
So the real problem here is, unfortunately, your last caller not respecting a stay-at-home order and going to buy a paintbrush and going to the stores.
Dollarama.
Buying,
Okay.
Dollarama.
Right.
What was necessity? What was a necessity?
Well, she said it was for a school assignment for her child.
No, she said it was painting her house. I thought is what I.
No,
thought.
I believe she said it was for a school assignment for her
Okay,
daughter.
well, my apologies.
Yeah.
But it is other folks that are doing this. Going out shopping when they should be respecting a stay-at-home order. We're out here working.
Right.
Providing.
Okay, I have an email. I just want. Okay, You say that. I have an email. This person wanted to remain anonymous because they feared reprisals. Okay.
Yeah.
Rob, I work at various job sites for major home builders in the city. If anyone thinks they're safe from COVID, they're kidding themselves. Lack of water to wash hands in any of the toilets or hand washing stations for months. I know it's been winter and when the water freezes, but heaters don't really cost that much. I don't want to give my name. There you go. So
I would agree with the home builders side because I'm in there too.
All right.
And yes, it's questionable. The washrooms are horrible, porta potties and stuff like that. So I would agree with that 100%.
All right.
And that's on the home builders and that's on the workers. We've got workers coming over from Quebec like crazy, and believe me, they do not respect the rules over here in regards to the safety, the quarantine, everything like that. And that's a whole other issue with construction and being flooded with Quebec guys. Yeah. And your anonymous person is correct. Those sites are horrible. And to the fact I won't even.
I would be very surprised. I don't have any inside information at all. I would be very surprised if there's a construction shutdown.
I'm hoping not, because then I'm out of work for, or potentially have dramatic reduced work for 2 weeks when we're already coming out of a slow winter.
And if there is how fair is it? Okay, say somebody's working light rail, for example, would not end. Mm-hmm. Okay, but you're working at the Amazon site.
Yeah.
Say you're a welder on light rail or a welder out on that site. What's the difference, right?
True.
Is it?
I mean, light rail.
Because that's what they did a year ago. They shut down private construction, but if you were doing a construction job for the government, you got to go to work every day.
Oh, of course.
Right. So, all right, we'll see what happens. 2:30. We'll have it for you, John. You won't miss any details. Keep it here on City News, okay, buddy?
I'm looking forward to it, but thank you very much. I've been watching or listening every day with you and waiting to call in to talk about just that, about the stuff you're seeing at these big box stores. They need to be shut down.
Okay. All right, John. Thanks, man. Bye-bye. Thanks to all your calls all week. My conversation with Greg Keelor from Blue Rodeo about his new solo effort. Coming up right after the 11 o'clock news. Rob Snow Show on City News.
This is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News. Now on 1011 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, April 16th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 5 degrees. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. All breaking news concerning vaccine shipments this morning. City News has learned Canada's shipment of Moderna vaccines for next week has been nearly cut in half from 1.2 million doses down to 650,000. Also up to 2 million doses that are scheduled for the second quarter of this year, so coming before the end of June, may be pushed to the next quarter. We'll have more on this story throughout the day on City News. Latest numbers of COVID cases in the province, another daily record high with 4,812 new cases today. Of that number, 366 are in Ottawa, 56 are in the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, 13 in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, and there are 8 more cases in Renfrew County. These positive results come from 64,300 tests with a positivity rate of 8.2%. The province also says another 25 people have died in the last day due to COVID. New measures from Ontario are going to be announced this afternoon. We're expecting the Premier to take the podium at about 2:30 this afternoon, and he will make the announcement then with new measures aimed at curbing COVID numbers. We do know there is not going to be an Ontario curfew. The Prime Minister will be holding his COVID-19 update very shortly. Ontario seeking federal assistance, and the Canadian Medical Association also calling on government to change the vaccine strategy. With more on this story now, here's City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will have a lot to discuss in today's briefing as the COVID situation in Canada worsens and provinces like Ontario are staring at the grim reality that soon hospitals and intensive care units could be overrun with COVID cases. I'm told the Prime Minister will discuss the situation in Ontario, which has sent a letter to the federal government requesting federal assistance with this third wave. Discussions are ongoing between the province and the feds on how best to use federal resources to try and help Ontario. CBC reporting that the province has asked for more than 600 doctors. Now, this comes as the Canadian Medical Association is calling for extraordinary measures, asking provinces to share their healthcare resources with areas in the country that are especially hard hit, including Ontario and Quebec. It's also calling on the federal government to consider reprioritizing its vaccine distribution strategy to focus on urgent areas instead of distributing to provinces on a per capita basis. That might not be an easy thing to ask for provinces that are still focused on trying to vaccinate their populations. I'm told the Prime Minister will have news today on vaccines, but it's unclear at this time what that news is. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
City News Time, 11:03. Now your forecast with weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
We've got light rain this morning through Smiths Falls, and then we're cloudy with showers this afternoon. The Ottawa region tapping into that cooler air mass once again with a bit of active weather, but the weekend looks good. We'll have sun and cloud both days and temperatures near or above seasonal. Your daytime high today for Smiths Falls, only 8 degrees.
And right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it's 5 degrees. Police say a podcaster's efforts helped them track down a suspect in a cold case killing of a California college student, Kristen Smart. This was nearly a quarter century ago. Chris Lambert detoured from a musical career 3 years ago, creating a podcast about Smart's 1996 disappearance. The county police say Lambert's efforts helped bring forward witnesses that led this week to the arrest of Paul Flores and his father. Lambert's podcast, Your Own Backyard, hit 7.5 million downloads yesterday. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Him as one of the founders of the iconic Canadian band Blue Rodeo. His latest solo effort is out now. It's called Share the Love, and it's a great pleasure to welcome to City News Greg Keelor. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Rob. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
You're hanging in there.
Yeah.
After all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
The ongoing drama of our COVID existence.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's it like to release an album right now? What's that like?
Well, it's a funny thing. There's 2 versions of this record, and one we did in the studio last year. And we had a release date of March 18th last year. And I think on the 15th, the NBA canceled, and we sort of realized we were coming into a different world. And so we canceled the release. And then after, the passing of the winter, and I saw so many people that I know, friends and that releasing records, I thought, well, we might as well release it. So we went over to this little community hall in Gore's Landing, which is about a half hour east of me. I live about an hour outside of Toronto. And we went in there to make some promotional videos. And when we listened back to what we were recorded and filmed, we liked it better than the studio version. We loved the studio version, but we liked this better. So, the record company and our manager and everybody thought, yeah, this is better. So we decided to make the live recording the record and put the studio version back on the shelf.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So the genesis of the project then actually predates the pandemic.
Yes, it was recorded before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it was going to be released. Like I was going in to talk to Steve Kane at Warne, we were going to figure out the release date. But then the pandemic hit and thought, well, let's see what happens.
Because one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, I wonder what it must be like to try and write music and perform and just try to be creative right now when everybody's emotions are kind of so amplified right now. I was wondering how that would affect say your creative process, for example.
Well, when it first hit, the COVID, and everything was isolated, I thought it was going to be much worse than it turned out to be. I thought for sure it was going to be the hazmat suits were going to be moving in and shutting down the country. I thought it was going to be like a Steven Spielberg film or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm a diabetic, and I really had to isolate myself because I was pretty nervous about it all. But I started just playing a lot of music and writing a lot of songs. And I've really enjoyed having the time to spend with the songs. And, Blue Rodeo is starting to make a record right now. And both Jim and I have a whole pile of songs that we've written over this COVID time. So
yeah,
that part of it has been real good for me.
And it seems great. I mean, there are a lot of artists, and maybe it is because of the isolation or what's happening, around them and what people are seeing. I mean, they're just pumping out material like crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that way.
Yeah.
And when I'm isolated here on the farm, a guitar is my best friend in the world. And I have a nice creative bubble out here of musicians who are usually on the road with their bands and other bands that are in the same state. So we sit around and we sing a lot of old country songs and bluegrass and folk songs and that. And the same group of people I made this record with at the Gore's Landing. And so we have kept our, like when we're singing and playing guitars, picking and grinning, we like working out the three-part harmony. Three-part harmony and, guitars, D18s, Martin D18s, that sort of seems to be the prevalent guitar in me and my friends. So just singing and playing is something that we really enjoy.
So the pandemic hasn't stopped the jam, Greg.
It's a distance jam.
A distance jam.
we can still do it, and everybody that is in this bubble is super conscious of the dangers of the virus.
So, what do you think comes through on Share the Love? What are you trying to say?
when you have 7 musicians in a room who are great musicians and great singers, and they know the material, and you just set up and to record, and that sort of heightens the game. There's something about recording that's like a performance, and you're just a little bit more focused and a little more energy. And there's something, whatever that energy is, you can feel it in recordings, and I think that's why we love music so much. You feel that river, those ribbons that connect us all, and so that's something that we love to do because we just like feeling that connection, and we know that we share it with the people listening.
How are you feeling right now about the state of the industry? It was just a few days ago here in Ottawa, we learned that for the second year in a row, there's not going to be a blues fest. I know people who plan their whole summer vacation around 3 weekends of blues fest, for example. And I'm sure you and your bandmates in Blue, you probably played blues fest, I don't know, countless times, right? And we just see a music industry first to close, last to open. Who knows when it's going to open? I mean, just how are you feeling about the state of the industry right now?
Well, how I feel about the industry is sort of how I feel about everything these days.
Right.
This has been a time of letting go of a lot of things. And letting go, and I guess the sort of motto of my life these days is we'll see. Everything is sort of penciled in. And I think the eraser's getting more work than the pencil. And so you just gotta, at least for me, I can't get too worked up about it. I just gotta let it go and just sort of deal with my life day to day here in the Valley.
Are you looking forward to someday getting back out there, getting on stage, performing, having a connection with the audience, that kind of stuff? Do you still get a buzz out of that? Or?
I love it.
Yeah.
It's one of the nicest things in the world for me, to go up there and to sing all these songs that everybody knows, and they sing along, and it's a really nice vibe, a lot of love, and it'll be really nice to be able to play again.
Yeah. I had to look it up on Wikipedia. It tells me you're 66 now. I hope you don't mind if I mention that. Are you vaccinated?
I'm on Route 66, man.
Yeah. Vaccinated yet? You got a dose yet?
I'm vaccinated.
Yeah. And how are you? You're still making music. You're still jamming. You're still, you're coming out with new material. How else does Greg Keelor of Blue Rodeo fill his days?
Well, as I say, I live on this farm.
Yeah.
And,
are you a farmer? Would I call you a farmer? Or?
No, you wouldn't call me a farmer. I'm a harvester of songs, but
okay.
It's just that I love. I live in this beautiful valley, and I've always loved being in the forest or, walking the fields here, and that's a large part of my day. I've got a great dog named Sam, a border collie, who can just walk and run for hours. So there's a lot of walking around the hills, a lot of guitar playing and singing, a lot of good meals. You gotta cook. And my girlfriend's here, so that's very sweet. And, as I say, it's...
all things considered, a pretty good life, Greg, right?
It's left foot, right foot.
Yeah. Congratulations on the new material.
Thank you very much.
And look forward to many more years of it coming.
Well, me too, and thanks for having me on.
Greg Keelor, Share the Love, out now. This is City News.
We just took over this business about a few weeks prior to the pandemic, but we've been loving the community, the people, very friendly. But it's been very difficult starting up a new business, just the time that we did, but I'm sure it's the same everywhere. We did take a broken business, which doesn't help us, but we thought we believe in what we do. We're very passionate about food, and we just really wanted to share the Iraqi culture through our food. All our recipes are homemade, so this is very unique. Usually you hear restaurants, shops, it's all frozen food or prepared food. So nothing here is prepared, everything is homemade. We get our meat and produce from a local farm. So supporting local is the way to go. We are supporting all the way. And our meat are actually marinated the day of, so it's as fresh as can be. Quality ingredients, and everything is made from scratch. I get a lot of people when they come in, they say it tastes like Middle Eastern, like back home. So for you to have been to Iraq and had the food there, you can really compare and see the similarity. We do like to focus on healthy. So our recipes, not only the homemade, again, everything is from scratch, but we have from combos and to small sandwiches. One of our favorites and very popular is the chicken salad and the beef salad. So now you're getting all the protein and all these amazing ingredients that we all need. During this time, I find a lot of people are sitting at home and not enough movement. So to come here and get something healthy other than go elsewhere and just put, what's not so good for our bodies, makes a huge difference. So we have shawarma sandwiches, combos. I mean, if you're looking for a meal to feed your family, I would highly recommend the family platter. It comes literally with everything, with potatoes, with rice, with chicken, with beef. And we don't charge extra for mix. I know a lot of places do. Here we just add everything to your platter. And lots of healthy choices for sure. We're very passionate about food. And for our small family business, it's been good. Like I said, it's a little struggle, but we are not a chained restaurant.
Is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
In sports. Hey, let's talk Sens hockey. I could talk Sens hockey all day long with Steve Warne from the Sens Nation podcast and the Steve Warne Project. Good morning, Steve. Welcome back.
Thank you, Rob. Good morning.
So, what would you say are the key takeaways for the Ottawa Senators this week?
Oh, boy, I think the number one thing in the big picture would probably be, what is Matt Murray going to be here in his second act as the starting goalie of the Ottawa Senators? We saw the first 2 months. He was not very good, particularly for the price tag that he carries. And he's on the sideline for 3 weeks. They bring him back off the DL on April 1st. And he has 2 weeks, basically, where he's working with Pierre, the goaltending coach. They fired him, and then they bring in a new goalie coach who's going to try and straighten him out. And so he finally got back in the lineup this week, and I thought he looked fine. But these last, 3-4 weeks of the season, we're going to need to see Matt Murray start to return to form, or the pressure is going to mount on him and probably on his general manager who signed him to all that money. That would be probably, if you ask me, the biggest storyline of the week. That would be it.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't a lot of players on the Ottawa Senators these days making big bucks. but he's one of them, right? So
yeah. And
gosh, he might be one of the top 3 highest paid players on the team or something, probably, Steve, I would suspect.
Yeah, he'd certainly be up there. And there's some underachievers as well that are getting paid very, very well. You look at guys like Dadonov, White, Tierney. Those 3 guys next season, Rob, they're going to have a price tag of $14 million collectively in terms of actual salary going out the door. And right now they're the 8th, 9th, and 10th best scorers on this team, and that's just not good enough.
It's been a heck of a streak for Connor Brown, right? It came to an end this week, but what did you think about just the way he put that together? Like he now has the record, right? The Senators' goal scoring streak record, right?
That is correct. Yeah, I think Jason Spezza shares it. He was injured in his 8-gamer.
Okay.
So it was split up, but he at least shares the record. And Connor Brown was one of the most surprising guys you would think, because he was so snake-bitten at the start of the year, if you recall. He couldn't bury it, but he creates so much. He's such a hard worker and creates all kinds of opportunities for himself. It just didn't seem like that would be the guy that would set a record like this, but it was full marks for it, full value. And you got to love Connor Brown. I mean, he's maybe not your standard top 6 type of a guy. He's ideally a number 3, like a third liner, but man, one of the best third liners in the game, and he certainly could be an ingredient on anybody's Stanley Cup recipe.
Is he going to be around in the Senators uniform for a while? What's his contract status, Steve? Do you know offhand? Or
I believe he has at least 2 years left on his contract. So,
all right.
And it's, you know what, I think over the next 2 years, particularly with, his age, he's right in the prime of his career, and the mentorship that he's going to be able to provide. Like Pierre Dorion went out and got, farmed out and tried to bring in, veteran guys to help this team. I mean, he already had a ready-made leader in Connor Brown. He just leads by example every single shift. He drives every line he's on, whether it's the first line or the fourth line. Gotta love that guy.
All right. Okay. Jacob Bernard Docker played his first NHL game this week. What did you think? Anything to report there?
I think for the fact that it was his first game, and he probably woke up that morning, not unlike Joey Decord when he made his debut, woke up that morning thinking, okay, I'm probably not in the lineup tonight, but Zaitsev got hurt, and so he got into the lineup. A couple of shifts where he looked maybe a little skittish, Rob, but through the rest of the game, the word I would use is poise. He's got really good footwork. You can see, he really processes the game well, and so, I mean, just getting through your first game, that's all you're really thinking about without any calamity occurring. I thought he was productive on top of everything else.
Good news. Okay, I have to ask you, right now the schedule says the Sens are supposed to play the Habs tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
Correct.
And then it's supposed to be the Hockey Night in Canada kind of primetime show is supposed to be Vancouver and Toronto at 7 o'clock. But everything is not well with the Vancouver Canucks. I wonder if this schedule is going to even stick for tomorrow for Hockey Night in Canada. What's your sense of things, Steve? Just given what's going on with Vancouver and COVID.
Yeah, it's. The Canucks are. They're in a difficult spot. I mean, I've heard a couple of their players this week starting to speak out about, are we really putting people first and safety first and families first? Because, this wasn't just a couple of isolated incidents. This was damn near the entire roster that was hit with this thing. So it feels like, sometimes they're trying to shoehorn in the action, because the games are meaningful now, obviously. We're down to the final part of the regular season. But even though playoff spots and everybody jockeying for position, that matters from an athletic standpoint, doesn't mean a hill of beans when it comes to people's safety.
Yeah, I wonder, if I guess there's a possibility that maybe that game gets shelved. They haven't made any kind of announcement yet. Maybe it's not. Right now, tentatively, I'm supposed to be on the couch watching hockey tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. I may have to wait until 7 o'clock if the game gets moved, because Montreal at 7 o'clock. I'm sure the folks at Hockey Night in Canada be just fine with that. Now, speaking of the Habs, they're not doing so hot these days. So this, even though they're playing Ottawa, it's a big game tomorrow for the Habs, right, Steve?
Yeah, they're fighting for their playoff lives. Calgary's coming on. They believe the last time I checked, they were 3 points back. Montreal's got some games in hand. The Habs lose on waivers this week. Victor Mete to the Senators. And watching Mete in a limited sample size here in Ottawa, it's hard to imagine there's not a spot for him in their top six, but that was the situation. And certainly, yeah, it's absolutely crucial for Montreal. They're still without Gallagher. It's going to be an interesting matchup. One of the neat sideline things might be that Montreal's just this morning called up Cole Caulfield, who just won the Hobie Baker Award, beating out Shane Pinto, who's also with the Ottawa Senators right now. So it would be awfully cool if they met head-to-head in both their NHL debuts.
That would be cool. Right now, the trade deadline in the rearview mirror. Toronto made some big moves. They got Foligno, I used to really like Nick Foligno's game when he played for Ottawa. So big fan of his. Not so much when he's wearing the blue and white of the Buds, but nevertheless. No doubt Toronto was a buyer at the trade deadline. Right now, who would you say is the favorite to win the Stanley Cup? Right now, Steve. Right now.
Boy.
Toronto's right there, right? Toronto's right there. You got to think.
They addressed the biggest weakness they had, which was a lack of leadership. They have all the skill. They have young guns. And, they tried to address that a couple of years ago with John Tavares and making him their captain. But you could see, based on their behavior, both in the offseason and at the deadline, that they just felt like they need those grit guys who've been there before. They've got Nick Foligno, Joe Thornton, Jason Spezza, Wayne Simmons. They've added all these bodies in hopes that will do the trick. The only thing they're missing is whether or not they have a healthy starting goalie. They thought Jack Campbell was on a nice run. Turns out that's starting to look like a Hamburglar run. Don't think he's going to be their answer in the playoffs. Okay. You've got Freddie Anderson still dinged up. Whenever he's ready, if he can be healthy and ready for the playoffs, certainly Toronto's as good a bet as anybody, and it pains me to say it, as good a bet as anybody in the NHL to take it all.
I know. You are one of the few people I know who hates the Leafs more than me.
It's hard to get over those early 2000s.
It sure is. It sure. Damn you, Gary Roberts. We're still saying that. All right, Steve. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, bye-bye. Steve Warne of the Steve Warne Project and the Sens Nation podcast on all your podcasting platforms. Well, it should be a big one. It's a big day in the province of Ontario. 2:30 news conference for Premier Ford. Lots of questions about the decisions that he's made already, and we'll debate them all during Queen's Park Week in Review right after the news on City News.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, the 16th of April. Good morning. I'm Sarah Buchan. Right now in Ottawa and in Smith Falls, overcast skies, 6 degrees. Here's what's making news this hour. Breaking news from the federal government, where Canada's procurement minister says incoming vaccine supply from Moderna will be slashed by half through the rest of this month. This is due to delays in the ramp-up of the production capacity for Moderna. Anita Anand says Moderna is going to ship 650,000 doses of its vaccine to Canada by the end of the month instead of the expected 1.2 million. Anand says the company also told Canada 1 to 2 million doses of the 12.3 million scheduled for delivery in the second quarter may be delayed until the third quarter. Anand says the federal government will continue to press Moderna to fulfill its commitments. Ontario is reporting 4,812 new cases of COVID-19 today and 25 new deaths due to the virus. The case count, a new record for a single day's reporting in a week where we saw records break on the regular. Public Health Ontario reporting 366 new cases in Ottawa. The province is reporting 56 new cases in Eastern Ontario. Leeds Grenville Lanark Health Unit confirms 12 new cases and 6 in the last 24 hours. There are 8 new cases in Renfrew County. Ontario could be announcing new public health restrictions today following recommendations made to Cabinet. Quebec's health minister says the province set a pair of records for COVID-19 injections. Christian Dubé says officials managed to inoculate nearly 75,000 people yesterday, the highest single-day number of Quebecers vaccinated since the campaign started. Meantime, Quebec is reporting 1,527 new cases of COVID-19 and 7 new deaths, including 1 in the past 24 hours. There are 151 cases of the virus in the day's reporting from the Outaouais. I'm Sarah Buchan. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
We have a lot to cover and not a lot of time to do it, so let's jump right into it with our MPPs. The gang's all here, but it's not the usual gang, although Gilles Bisson is with us. Timmins, New Democrat. Good morning, Gilles.
Hail, hail.
Yeah, good to hear you.
Gang's all here.
Goldie Ghamari is Progressive Conservative. Riding is Carleton. Good morning, Goldie Ghamari.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, nice to hear from you. And Steve Blais is the Liberal MPP for Ottawa-Orleans. Morning, Steve.
Morning.
Yeah, good to hear from you. And apologies in advance if I call Steve Blais counselor, because I did that for about 8 years on the radio. So old habits die hard, and I'll try not to do that, though. But I do want to start with you, Steve Blais, because it's a big day. 2:30 news conference. We'll have that here on City News, with more restrictions being considered for Ontario because of the current COVID-19 situation. What do Liberals think should be done right now?
Well, I think it's clear that the situation has devolved beyond the control of the government. They really don't have a handle on things and have really been struggling to keep ahead of the virus. And so this morning, Stephen Del Dio, the leader of the Liberal Party, has been calling on the government to appoint a COVID-19 czar, as someone who can go in, take charge of the entirety of the situation, every aspect of handling the pandemic from top to bottom, and get things under control. And we're strongly recommending that either Dr. Steiny Brown, who is a leader on the science table, or Dr. David Naylor, who's the former president of the University of Toronto, be appointed to those roles. It's clear that the government has, as I've mentioned, not been able to properly address the information that has been receiving from the science table. It was told in late February that if they chose the path to reopen and to try to return to normal, that a disaster would be the likely outcome. And we're living that reality. And then even, I think it was last week, Rob, you might remember, the Solicitor General was on radio here in Ottawa saying they explicitly chose not to act on the modeling projections because they wanted to see the disastrous modeling come to fruition in real life before taking action. that is a complete abdication of responsibility.
Okay, yeah, I did hear that. I did hear that. Yeah, I did. I want to pick up on this though, Steve. I welcome comments from your colleagues here, but I totally disagree with this idea of having a COVID czar. What is a czar? A czar is divine right, a COVID king, an unelected official in charge of every aspect of the file. I mean, we have elections for a reason. We elect. For better or worse, we elect politicians to make decisions and make the tough decisions. Okay, why would we have a czar? It's kind of that. Come on, Steve, that's a dumb idea.
The government needs a whole government approach, and at the moment they're not taking one. You've got medical officials operating in a silo. You've got municipalities operating in a silo, and there is clearly within the government conflict. Within the cabinet, within the caucus, between taking strong public health measures and doing what's right for Ontarians and not. Otherwise, they would have acted on the information on February. It would not take 3, 4, 5 marathon 10-hour cabinet and caucus meetings to come to a simple decision.
But I guess if the czar screws up, how do I hold the czar accountable? I can't. I can't vote the czar out of office, Steve.
That is the issue.
Okay, Gilles, go ahead.
I agree with you that governments are elected, make decisions. Unfortunately, this government hasn't made the decisions that were recommended by their own experts, including the command table. We knew that this was coming a long time ago. The command table and a number of others had been, adding their voices to the government, had to take stronger measures early in December, all the way through January, February. The opening was going to cause problems. Everybody saw this coming, all of the medical experts, but the government decided to do the politics of this, which is there are people in Ontario, and we need to acknowledge that, who don't believe that COVID is a real threat and that all of this is going to go away on its own. Well, the reality, it's not going to go away on its own. Government has to make tough decisions, and what we need is the government to do what it's supposed to, and if not, then put another government in place who's ready. And just look at countries around the world who have taken the steps necessary to combat this effectively at the beginning, have not had to shut their economies down 3 and 4 times because they did it right the first time. In this case, that's not what we did here.
Okay. Goldie, Ghamari, what do you think? Del Duca says we need a czar. We should have a czar. What do you think?
I think this is why the Liberals are not in power, or not going to be in power for a very long time, because, just the word czar is so out there, and it's just such a huge disconnect with reality. Who in their right mind would want to even implement some sort of authoritarian dictatorship in a democracy?
That is so beyond. That is so beyond. That is out.
All right, one at a time, Steve.
You had a chance to speak, Stephen. It's my turn now. Thank you. And I let you go on and on with your weird czar comments. Rob, the reality is that we as a government have done everything we can, and we are continuing to do that. And when you have politicians who are going out there and saying that we are ignoring health and medical advice, that is just a complete that has no basis in reality. And it's frustrating. And I think it's kind of irresponsible when politicians are politicizing the situation. The reality is that the modeling is being updated on a daily basis. The modeling is being provided by top health and medical experts in Ontario. Those health and medical experts are having public media briefings on an almost daily basis, and everyone can see that, where they present the data and they present the information, and the media can ask them questions on it. And it is based on that health and medical advice and the modeling that we are receiving that we are making decisions. And it's true, we are in a dire situation right now because the situation has been changing. And part of that is because we are not getting the vaccine supplies that we need. Just yesterday, the federal government announced.
Well, just this morning, just moments ago, Canada's shipment of Moderna vaccines for next week has been cut in half.
Exactly.
Okay.
So when we don't even have a steady supply of vaccinations, That means we have to update our modeling. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to keep Ontarians safe while we are trying to put vaccines into as many arms as possible.
Thank you. Gilles Bisson.
My only point to Goldie's point that we're making all this up and it's irresponsible on the part of anybody to say otherwise. It's their own experts that are saying this. Various media outlets have looked into it, have talked to the medical experts, and they're saying, listen, we give them information, and at the end they don't take our information and they go do what they want. So it's not us making this stuff up. And just look at what's happening in Ottawa when it comes to the postal code debacle. The government tried to defend itself by saying, oh, this was a medical decision of the command table. And the command table said, absolutely not. We never recommended that. And it was the government who came up on it on its own. So we're not making this stuff up.
Okay. Oh, yeah, we can get into that in just a second. But I do want to get into shots by postal code and what's going on in the west end of Ottawa, okay? Ontario did yesterday 115,000 doses administered. The capacity is 150,000. They want to do 150,000 a day. And
that was a record, actually, Rob.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The Ford government insists it could do more. It could do more if it only had a steady supply of vaccines. I mean, how fair is that? Isn't that a fair point? It's not a week that goes by where there's not some kind of disruption in the vaccine supply chain. That's not on the provincial.
That is a problem.
The challenge with that statement, the challenge with that statement, Rob, though, is that there are currently 1.2 million doses in the possession of the government that have not yet been administered. And while the minister goes out and says people have appointments for those, they're already booked, that may very well, in fact, be true. But if they have 1.2 million shots in their possession today, why aren't they achieving the goal of 150,000 a day?
I can answer that question. I can answer that question because the vaccines that are currently in freezers are AstraZeneca, and people are not signing up for AstraZeneca. So when you're lumping in AstraZeneca with Moderna and Pfizer, that's actually factually incorrect, and you're sending the wrong signal to people.
Okay.
So you have to look at which vaccines are there. We are not.
Oh my gosh,
anything.
It's like herding cats here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, Gilles. Look, the federal government's job is to procure and secure a stable supply of vaccine for the provincial government.
Listen, I'm going to agree with you. The federal government didn't do the best job it could when it comes to sourcing and getting the vaccines we need. But yet the government makes decisions, such as the announcement made by the Premier the other day, that we're going to open up even more vaccinations for people when we don't have the vaccines to go around. So the government can't all of a sudden raise the expectation of people under 50. I think he talked about people over the age of 18 in certain areas, knowing that you don't have the amount of vaccines necessary to fulfill what it is that you're saying. So yeah, we have a supply problem, but we also have a management problem where the provincial government, quite frankly, does different than what they say at their press conferences, and we're seeing the effect of that.
Okay. I'm just wondering if anybody wanted to jump in there. If not, we can stop.
I'm not even sure how to respond to that. I mean, the reality is the vaccines are coming in. We're administering them as soon as possible, as soon as physically possible. If there are vaccines in freezers, it's because they are allocated to people who require a shot, people who have booked appointments. And you have to remember, these vaccine shipments usually come in at the beginning of the week, and by the end of the week, they're gone.
Okay.
And
all right. Let's stop right there. Let's stop right there, Goldie.
Available are AstraZeneca, and people aren't signing up for that.
Thank you, Goldie Ghamari. When we come back, we have two local MPPs on the line, one from Carleton, one from Orleans. Gilles, I know you're very familiar with the issue. I want to get into this whole shots by postal code and the allegations that politics played a role in choosing what postal codes are getting a quicker supply of vaccines. When we come back with Queen's Park Week in Review on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
I wanted to give gifts to my volunteers, so I started making, I knew this is a skill I had, so I made chocolate that had cultural based with a teaching, because culture here is not just a little part, it's the large part, it's the fundamental part of our organization. So then we started doing, just little programs, and we sell a few at a fair. And then we started getting contracts. People were starting to enjoy the the chocolates and started getting more and more contracts all across Canada. Then we decided to become a social enterprise, and we were able to create 2 jobs, and Val is one of our chocolatiers, very talented. We were able to help her with employment.
We started just with a little bit in the kitchen, doing a little bit of chocolate together, and next thing, it's just kind of taken off. And it's great because I love to be creative, and we get to create a lot and make up stuff, and it's just I just love it. It's just great that we get to make money back for Wabano, and it's helping me out, and we're helping just everybody out, Wabano and everything.
We met a very socially conscious business owner being around town, and we decided to partner because beans and chocolate, coffee and chocolate are sort of created the same way. And there's, and they're very, one origin bean, so it was a good pairing together, and it's been a fantastic partnership for both of us.
I was fortunate enough to get introduced to Pierre, the head of Wabano Fine Chocolates, through a local networking group. And I was completely intrigued by the social enterprise that she was running, and then I looked at what we were doing, trying to support local business and supporting local communities, and it was a perfect match, and it's been fantastic ever since.
We make every batch by hand. We temper it by hand to get to the consistency it needs to be to make a good chocolate. And one of the best, also wonderful things we did, we've connected with Ed, with being around town, and our coffee bars have been an amazing hit. So we're really excited about the connection with our coffee.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Okay, right back into it. Queen's Park Week in Review with New Democrat Gilles Bisson, Liberal Stephen Blais, and Progressive Conservative Goldie Ghamari, all MPPs. Shots by postal code. Now, I want to play, this is a clip that we have here at City News of Glenn Gower, who's the city councillor for the area in question here, the west end of Ottawa, Canada, parts of Stittsville as well. And he's wondering if the inclusion of this area in the shots by postal code controversy may be nothing more than a typo. Maybe somebody has fat fingers. Maybe it's not supposed to be K2V, but rather it's supposed to be K2B. Roll tape, please.
Perhaps it was a mistake. If you look at your keyboard, K2B would be one keystroke away, and K2B in Ottawa does have some neighborhoods where we've seen a higher number of positive cases among residents. So perhaps it was a mistake.
All right, Stephen Blais, I want to start with you. Could it just be a typo?
Yeah, look, we've asked for the Auditor General to review all aspects of the vaccine rollout plan, including the selection of areas by postal code. Could it be a typo? Sure. Could it be someone mishearing some information in a conversation? K2B, K2 Bob versus K2V Victor. That's been known to happen as well. I think in addition to the problem of choosing the wrong location to begin with, the further problem is the government has had 3 or 4 different answers as to how K2V was selected. And throughout the entirety of the emergency and throughout the entirety of the pandemic, they have been hesitant, resistant, if at all, ever, to even admit that they've made any errors. So even if it was a transcription error, if it was a typo, if it was a mishearing of the letter, the government hasn't demonstrated through this entire process that they are willing to admit that they've done anything wrong ever and taken steps to correct their mistakes. So we've asked the Auditor General to come in and take a look at not just this particular issue, but the entirety of the vaccine rollout plan to get to the bottom of how decisions were come to and to provide her expert analysis to ensure that Ontarians get to see this information and her analysis, because her first review of the initial stages of COVID-19 and the efforts by government to address it here in Ontario were not particularly flattering to the government, and we want to ensure that we learn from these issues, and we can hold the government accountable for the decisions they're making.
Gilles Bisson, in addition to that, could it be a typo? I would ask, who made the decision?
Well,
Did the politicians make the decision? Did they make it on the decision based on medical science? Because the science table seems to say, well, it wasn't up to us. So,
listen, I don't believe for a second it's a typo. Listen to the Minister of Health's response when she was asked about it. She says, we picked that area because there was long-term care facilities within that particular postal code, which it turns out is not the case. So the minister herself is making the comments that in fact it was the cabinet made that decision. And if you listen to the defense by the premier in the premier's office, they were saying, oh no, it wasn't us, it was the command table. And then the command table came back and said, no, has nothing to do with us. We never told them to do that. The government made that decision on its own. So it's pretty clear it was a decision at the highest levels, and the government made that call. And like every decision that you make as a government or as an opposition party, you live or die by those decisions.
But I mean, do you really think they made the call because it's a PC riding?
Well, if you take a look around the province, there's about 20 postal codes in opposition ridings that, quite frankly, have much higher levels of COVID infection.
That's the allegation, Goldie Ghamari, that it was made because it's Dr. Fullerton's riding. So.
Well, it's interesting. This is what a lot of people haven't realized is K2B. Actually, the majority of it is in my riding, except for maybe a tiny little. About 3 streets, which are on the east.
So did you fix it? Did you fix it, Goldie? Did you put the fix on? Did you put the fix in? Is the fix in, Goldie Ghamari?
Absolutely not. And this is why I've just been so stunned by these allegations, because.
It's the minister's
one at a time. Let's hear from Goldie. Okay.
I mean, I didn't interrupt when.
All right. Go ahead, Goldie. Go ahead.
Stephen, so I would appreciate the same level of respect.
Go ahead, Goldie. We're short on time.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. So when the postal code listings were first released, and I noticed K2B, I did actually reach out to the ministry and to Minister Elliott, and just wanted to know why K2B was included. Because this decision, I had nothing to do with this decision. I was not even aware of this decision. And my staff also reached out to the ministry, and the response that we got is that this was based on health and medical data that was provided by and available to health official and health official staff. And when I asked them how this decision was made, they basically said that since January, the K2V postal code has had 44% more cases per 100,000 people than the provincial average. As well, this postal code saw 25% more COVID-19 deaths. These indicators were considered in addition to the fact that the postal code's socio-demographic data showed a racialized community of over 40%. So this is why the K2V postal code was included in the list of 114 hotspots. Now, having said that, this does not preclude or prevent Ottawa Public Health to put up mobile or pop-up clinics in whichever areas that they have determined to be hotspots, even where these differ from provincial identification of hotspots. All we did as a province is we identified those postal codes that we believe are hotspots based on the data provided by health and ministry staff.
Okay, not a typo then. That puts that to red. Okay. Does that satisfy everyone?
Yeah, it's not a typo. It was a political decision. I agree.
Again, how is
it I don't know.
Come on, pretty hard to argue otherwise.
Way, shape,
Just look at the numbers, and your own command table says so.
How is this
so the government,
make
their decision, live by it.
The other two hotspots, I believe, are not in any PC-held riding. So again, I think this is just another example of opposition politicians trying to point fingers and dig, make a mountain out of a molehill because they have nothing else to go against.
Is that what it is, Stephen Blais? You're trying to score cheap political points, Stephen Blais? Are you trying to score cheap political points, Stephen Blais?
Well, in fairness, Rob, I think
Stephen Blais should have a czar come in to look at.
I think we gave the government. I think we gave the government an out by saying it was a mistake, and all they had to do was admit to their mistake. What we've asked is for the Auditor General to come in and review the entirety.
In fact, the NDP asked for that
rollout plan. We've asked for it as well. You asked for it. We asked for the entirety of the plan.
I'm surprised you didn't want
it sounds like the Auditor General is going to be a busy person by the sounds of things. All right, look, we have to wrap it up. I thank you. Look, I know it's very passionate, all the opinions that are raging right now. Mm-hmm. Thank you for all the work that you're doing on the ground in the communities to keep your constituents informed, direct them to where assistance is available. And stay safe, everyone, this weekend. Thank you. We'll talk next week. Thanks again. Bye-bye. Yep. Gilles Bisson, New Democrat from Timmins. Steve Blais, Ottawa, Orleans Liberal. Goldie, Ghamari, Progressive Conservative. The riding is Carleton. That's it for this week for the Rob Snow Show. The news next. And then it's the Mark Sutcliffe Show. This is City News.
The Rob Snow Show.
Weekdays 9 to noon on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.